So I would like to introduce to you our Division Director, Venetian. Thank you, Venetian.
Happy New Year, my fellow Toastmasters. Welcome to District 91 Division H Toastmasters Leadership Institute, TLI training for club officers. Wow, we have attendees from around the world today, from USA, Singapore, Scotland, divisions across District 91, and of course, Division H. In September 2020, I attended a club meeting at an online club. I was greeted with a good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Well, why not? It was an online club and people were there from different time zones. There, I met a lady, and as part of the warm-up session, the lady introduced herself and she said, well, last night, over the last week, in fact, it's been very difficult to be sleeping where I live. And in fact, we've had bombs dropping around in the vicinity. And we thought, wow, bombs? Turns out she lived in Lebanon in the middle of civil unrest. And she went on to say, well, she was really pleased to be at her club meeting because it gives her an opportunity to network and socialize with fellow Toastmasters and have an enjoyable time, and at the same time, further her Toastmasters education. Wow. That day, I learned when life deals us a lemon, the Toastmasters education program gives us the recipe for lemonade. As Toastmasters, we have the ability or the possibility of making the world a smaller place by coming together, just like today. Now, yesterday, Arno Sars shared a photograph with me, and I thought I'd share this with you. It's a picture of a contest that, well, so what's so special about that contest? It was a contest at Speakers of Croydon on the 1st of March 2016. And when I look around the room, I see leaders who created an environment for my generation of Toastmasters. Yeah. For my generation, and they not only did that, but they also created an environment, they created a membership experience that enabled us to grow as speakers and as leaders. Now, why do I remember that date, I hear you ask? 1st of March 2016 is the day I walked through that door at the back of the room as a visitor at Speakers of Croydon and joined as a member. It was a time when the very idea of making people laugh was a distant dream, although some might say that I should keep on dreaming. During the turbulent times that we live in at the moment, we have the opportunity of opening the doors to our clubs to the entire world through the Zoom platform and unveil talents that we never thought we had. We have once Zoom terrified members who are now accomplished Zoom masters and running their club meetings. Who would have thought that? Trudy Kuhn. We have Shivpriya Gowri. She is a doctor living in India, member of Pearly Speakers in Area Age 15, and a double winner at the Division H Humorous Speech and Table Topics Contest. Wow, that is a first within Division H. But the job doesn't stop there. We need wow clubs and wow membership experience to retain our members and attract new members, and at the same time support our leaders in these turbulent times. We will be exploring these with you during the course of the day. This brings me to our first keynote speaker. He is an internationally renowned next level leadership readiness expert who helps leaders to break through to the next level of their career, business, and life. He is the CEO of Thought Expressions, Chief Mentor at Next Level Unlimited, and the 2017 World Champion of Public Speaking. He holds an MBA from Imperial College and has 25 years of leadership experience in strategy, management, and technology, with many major MNC clients in Asia, Australia, USA, and Europe. As an expert in next level leadership readiness, he has coached C-level executives, senior executives, bureaucrats, celebrities, UN diplomats, high performance teams, high potential employees, and professionals constituting a clientele from over 50 nationalities. He is the author of the international bestsellers, including Mastering Leadership, The Mousetrap Way, and How to Become the World Champion of Public Speaking, the definitive step-by-step guide. He has been featured widely on international media, including BBC, CNBC, Business Insider, and world's top-ranking book fairs. With a keynote entitled Leading in Turbulent Times, please welcome Manoj Vasudevan.
All right. Thank you, Vanishan. I think that massive introduction makes me feel a bit turbulent. Okay. All right. So thank you. So raise your hand if you think you are a leader. Let me see. Okay. Some have raised their hands. Some are waiting for someone else to take the lead. And some are looking at me saying, oh, I am a leader, but I want to keep it a secret. All right. So today, maybe some of you want me to repeat the question, but the opportunity has passed. No problem. The opportunity will come again. You see, many people tell us now we are living in turbulent times, uncertain time, unprecedented times. But I am actually inspired to learn about the leadership journey of your club, your division. You adopted to this new virtual world and open doors, new opportunities for most of us. And that's fantastic. So today, you're going to learn 5 principles that will help you to lead better during turbulent times and beyond. And before I share with you this principle, let me tell you how I found it. You see, I have learned this principle. I did not invent these principles. I learned this principle in my role as leadership coach, as a consultant for leaders facing crisis, coaching people all walks of life, like Vanishan introduced me. And most of you know me as a world champion of public speaking, but my real work, the core work I do for many years, have been on as an expert on next level leadership readiness, which basically means helping leaders to break through to the next level in their career, business, and life. So in short, what I do is I read, I think, I write, I speak, I coach, and I consult on next level leadership readiness. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run through the 5 principles with some stories and examples. And for each principle, I will share with you specific actionable tips that you can use to lead better and achieve the best outcomes for you, your family, your organization. So I would recommend that you take lots of notes. And if you have any further questions, you can message me on LinkedIn today. And so whenever you're ready with a pen and paper, just type S. Somebody help me to type S in the chat and I'll get started. So whenever you have a pen and a paper. Yeah, if one person can have, okay, that's great. Fantastic. So here is the principle number 1. Here are the 5 principles. Principle number 1 is choose optimism. Recently, I met a 84-year-old optimist who is looking forward to life. He's the author of the best-selling book, Everlasting Optimism. His name is Lenny Ravitch. So earlier, when this COVID crisis started, he was still being very optimistic about life. And so I wondered, how can an 84-year-old look forward to life in the midst of so much negativity? So I invited Lenny Ravitch to speak at one of the WCPS Club mastermind sessions. And some of you attended that, I believe. So here are 2 key lessons Lenny shared. First is to embrace everlasting optimism. Number 2 was to consciously activate your happy hormones. What do you mean by that is there are hormones in our brain like dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, etc. every day. So he's 84-year-old. He does some funny exercises in the morning. He wakes up in the morning, looks at the mirror and say, ha, 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 I am still alive. And and of course he has several other fun exercises he does. Basically what he's doing is to do things to feel good throughout the day. So he taught us some fun techniques. And if you would like to learn, if anybody's interested to learn, you just type in the chat box. I can send you a link to that video of what he shared. And so basically the idea is to consciously choose optimism. Okay, maybe I'll just type it in the chat box. Okay, give me a second and I'm going to type it in the chat box. I'm multitasking here. All right, that is the link. Okay. So of course, what else can you do when I say to choose optimism? You see, pessimism is a human problem. Animals do not have it. For example, imagine in a jungle, a tiger chases a deer, but after running for a long time, the tiger could not catch the deer. So if the tiger doesn't catch the deer, the tiger goes hungry that night. But you will never hear in BBC World News that today a tiger committed suicide because it could not catch a deer. The tiger wakes up the next day, puts on its stripes and goes for the hunt. That's what I mean by choosing optimism. No matter what hits you, job loss in business, bereavement, be that tiger. Don't lose hope, go for the hunt. Show the world what you're made of. So another tip I learned is in part of choosing optimism is to reframe your situations. You see, if there was no COVID-19 in the past few months, I would have traveled to 10 to 20 cities around the world speaking or coaching. But I see this bit different. Now I don't have to travel now. I can stay at home and speak. I'm speaking at 2 or 3 events. I don't have to travel. I save time and energy. So what I've learned is right after the keynote, I'll reach home instantly. So the tip I learned here is to don't complain, reframe. Whatever situation you face, reframe. For example, yesterday I read in BBC World News that 1 in 30 people, I believe it's in BBC, one of the news channels I read, 1 in 30 people in the UK has COVID. That sounds amazing, big number. But you can either choose to complain by blaming it on the administration, the people, the system, or we can reframe it. For example, 1 year into the pandemic, 97% of the people are still safe. Or if people say there are 8% unemployment, or you can say 92% people still have jobs. What I found useful is to spend less time with people who share our fears and spend more time with people who share our hopes, and most time with people who have already overcome the fears we have and achieved more than we hope for. So under principle number 1, choose optimism. Here are some questions to ponder as you lead during turbulent times. Are you having the mindset of the tiger who goes for the hunt? Are you complaining or are you reframing? So as you lead during turbulent times, the first principle is to choose optimism. And as a leadership coach, I am fortunate to have the opportunity to work with people from around the world, but I also coach people from all walks of life, CEOs, senior executives, UN diplomats, professionals, and so on and so forth. But being a coach has been a mutually rewarding experience. I learned from clients about their varied experiences, challenges, and stories. So people often ask me, Manoj, what is the one thing you learn from coaching leaders? So the most important thing I learned is this: most people in high positions are ordinary people like you and me. So based on my research and based on my conversations with leaders and my observation, I agree that some people are truly exceptional. They are born leaders. They are born with certain traits, gifts, and talents that make them better suited for leadership. You drop them into a group, they will automatically emerge as a leader. They are what I call leaders by birth. Probably you've seen people like that. Now, the question is, what if you are not born as a leader? Can you become a leader too? Fortunately, the answer is yes. In fact, most leaders we know are not born leaders. They didn't start off as leaders. They picked up some techniques, skills, mindset, behaviors that under the right circumstances transformed them from ordinary persons to extraordinary leaders. And these are what I call leaders by design. So what makes someone a leader by design? Or what steps can you take to become a leader others admire and follow? For years, I was trying to find out that. And what I figured out was different from what I read in books on leadership, a different perspective, a different set of leadership lessons. In fact, the leadership lessons I learned were foretold in a folktale my father used to tell me. It's called The Mousetrap. I know some of you have heard me share this before, but I will share it again for the benefit of new leaders. It's a short story. So allow me to tell you the tale. So can you type in the chat box if you heard me sharing the story of the mousetrap? Not many. Okay, so I think, okay, I can tell you all the same jokes. Okay, or few of you. All right, so, but I'm going to share the story with a very different perspective. So bear with me for 2 minutes. So as you listen to this tale, think about your life, think about the people you have met in your life, and more importantly, think about what leadership lessons could be and how can you apply that in the context of your role. So here's the story. Once upon a time, there lived a poor farmer. And one day, the poor farmer bought a mousetrap. Now, the poor farmer was living with his wife in a small house. And when the farmer bought this mousetrap, the mouse of the house started panicking. He said, "Oh my God, there's a mousetrap in the house." And he panicked and he went out of the house, and where he met his friends, the hen, the goat, and the cow. So he went to the hen and said, hen, there's a mousetrap in the house. There's a mousetrap in the house. And the hen said, "Why are you telling me this? This is not my problem. Go away." So the mouse went to the goat. By the way, I'm looking at you, but I don't think you look like a goat. Okay. So he went to the goat and said, goat, there's a mousetrap in the house. There's a mousetrap in the house. And the goat said, "Why are you telling me this? This is not my problem. Go away." And so the mouse went to the cow and said, cow, holy cow, there's a mousetrap in the house. There's a mousetrap in the house. And the mouse said, "Why are you telling me this? Have you ever heard a mouse being trapped? Have you ever heard a cow being trapped in the mousetrap? Go away, it's not my problem." So ladies and gentlemen, there was a mousetrap in the house. All of them heard about it, but most of them ignored it because it was not their problem. So that night, bang, something got trapped in the mousetrap. So the farmer's wife, she sprang up from her bed and said, "Hey, finally I got the mouse." And she went into the kitchen where the mousetrap was placed, but she could not see a thing. It was pitch dark. And she stooped down to pick up the mouse, but it was not a mouse that was trapped in the mousetrap. It was a snake. And the snake bit the farmer's wife, and she yelled out in pain. And the farmer came running in and killed the snake. And now, but the damage was already done. The farmer's wife fell ill and she had high fever. Now, what's a good medicine for high fever? Some people say Panadol, but that's not what the farmer didn't have any Panadol or paracetamol. What he did is he killed the hen and fed his wife with chicken soup. And the next day, the news spread and friends and family came to meet the farmer's wife, and to feed them, the poor farmer slaughtered the goat. And 1 week later, unfortunately, the farmer's wife passed away. And as you would have imagined, the farmer had to sell the cow and meet the funeral expenses. So, and the farmer thought, because of my stupid decision, of buying the mousetrap, I lost all my source of livelihood. And he was so totally disappointed, and he had no energy to work, and he felt depressed. And 3 months later, the poor farmer passed away. So actually, that is the end of the story. So my question to you is this: what are the lessons? What are the lessons you can get from the mousetrap? If anybody could type or shout out, that's fine. Yeah. What could be, what is the key lesson from the mousetrap? Make it your problem. Okay. I'm reading the chat. Don't buy a mousetrap. Okay. Some people say buy some other trap. Yeah. Okay. Don't ignore other people's problem. Be aware of unintended consequences. I like that. Work together to solve the problem. We are all connected, all actions and reaction. Even if problem doesn't affect you, it's still your problem. Okay, that's fantastic. Fantastic sharing. And I'm so glad. In the interest of time, I'm speeding up a bit. I realized that. So you see, depending on where I ask this question, I get a different answer. Okay, so I've been a bit hooked by this mousetrap story. In fact, I have written a few books on this topic. You probably know that. So so I have 18 leadership lessons I derived from the mousetrap. Somebody say go vegan. Okay, fine, great. That's the book, Mastering Leadership the Mousetrap Way. So 18 lessons. I'm going to focus on certain lessons in the interest of time, right? From second principle, lesson 2 onwards, to integrate it with leading in turbulent times. So today, the principle number 2. So you see, when the problem first happened, it didn't look like the problem for the hen, the goat, or the cow. But in the end, it only affected the hen, the goat, and the cow. You see, whenever something happens, no matter how remote, no matter how insignificant, no matter how improbable, it has a potential to affect us. We can't just assume it will not affect us. If something goes wrong, if it's not done appropriately in your club, in your division, in your district, it's not just a problem for your president, your area director, or your division director, because it's a problem for all of us to solve. Because in a team, somebody's problem is everybody's problem. Somebody's problem is everybody's problem. So what I want to highlight here is the idea of ownership. You see, every leader worth his or her salt is someone who has taken ownership of problems, getting it fixed. So at the core of leadership is the habit of taking ownership. So the principle number 2, I will come to the principle in a bit. So the idea of the mousetrap is, you see, the mousetrap has 2 parts, the trap and the cheese, right? So the cheese represents opportunity and the trap represents the risk. Every challenge you take on, there's risk and opportunity. You have to tackle a problem, but it also helps you to grow off as a leader. Same with COVID-19, right? Earlier part of last year, I was giving a speech in the Middle East. I said, COVID is not a problem just in China, because I used the mousetrap to explain how it's going to spread around the world, because I've seen that happening during SARS many years ago. So, but in the interest of your topic, what I would say, principle number 2, is to take initiative without directive. You see, have you noticed that many people are not willing to take ownership? They just pass it on. It's not their problem. There's always a reason for every season. And as a speech contestant and a visitor, I have been fortunate to visit more than 100 Toastmasters club around the world. And so sometimes it goes like this. Let's say a club doesn't have enough members, and I only know after I visit the club. And you go and ask the president, why is the membership so low? And the president goes, membership is not me, it's vice president membership. and you go and ask the vice president membership, and the vice president membership goes like this. Oh, the membership is low because vice president public relations didn't bring enough guests. This goes on and on. I don't know whether you've seen this problem, because it becomes nobody's problem. So in the end, it affects everyone in the team. And when we look around, we see many people who avoid ownership. They are waiting for instructions to act. So this is what I learned, and what I remind my team and other people is that if you always need instruction to operate, you're not a leader, you're a follower. So learn or continue to do this, take initiative without directive. Once I was speaking at an international conference and I shared this mousetrap keynote. And after my keynote, I went back to my seat, and there was this lady. She came to sit next to me and said, "Oh, I totally resonated with your mousetrap story." And I said, "Why?" He said, "In my team, I often end up doing things nobody wants to do. Because people are dropping off things and I end up doing that." So I said, "Is that something you're supposed to do?" She said, "No." Then I said, "Why do you do it?" She said, "I look at the problem and nobody is doing it. So I ask, should I do it? Should I do it?" Then I just do it. So I said, "Did anyone see that you're doing it?" She said, "No." I said, "Did you get any recognition for doing it?" She said, "No." "Did you tell anyone that you did it?" "No." "Did anyone know that you are doing this?" She said, "No." Then I said, "Why do you do it? What do you get out of it?" I was just curious. And she said something amazing thing I ever heard, right? She said, "Nobody saw it. Because by doing it, I'm growing from the inside. I'm growing. Nobody sees it because I'm growing from the inside." So here are some questions I invite you to ponder on, right? As you lead during turbulent times, here are some questions to ponder. So are you making excuses or are you giving excellence? This is a question you can ask your team, and as a collective organization, right? Come together to discuss this stuff. Are you making excuses or are you giving excellence? Are you working to get the tallest trophy or the longest title, or are you striving to take initiative without directive so that you're growing from the inside? You're growing from the inside. So the first principle as you lead during turbulent times was to choose optimism. The second principle is to take initiative without directive. So now the next question I would have is, what did the mouse do when he saw the mousetrap? If anybody could type in the chat box, this one word would do. What did the mouse do when he saw the mousetrap? Okay, he panicked. That's right. That was the answer I was expecting. Yeah, that's fantastic. He was running around in panic. So what could he have done differently? What could he have done differently? And this is a lesson very valid during turbulent times. Because you see, as a leader, if you panic during crisis, no one wants to be near you. Everyone will want to avoid you. Because a time of crisis is not a time to panic. It's a time to stay calm, to be certain, to be confident. Because nobody will follow you if you are not confident. I remember I was one of my leadership clients, a CIO. He once told me, "Manoj, sometimes I want to promote a person to a better position, but when I offer them the role, they say, I am not ready for it." And he says, "I just don't understand. You will never be 100% ready for the role." And he said, "You just take the role and figure it out. And you probably can realize it. You are taken up roles with no clue how to do it, right?" I mean, you probably, have you ever felt that you don't have the competence in your current role? And if so, don't worry. I've spoken to international presidents and board of directors who said, I knew everything, but until I got this job, I had to learn everything again, right? There's so many things to learn and figure out. So people before you had no clue either. So they just figured it out, okay? So as Mary Forleo once said, I think she also has a book on this topic, Mary Forleo, she said, everything is figure outable. So you need to have the confidence that your cause is, so once you have decided to take ownership, you need to have the confidence that your cause is significant, your talent is sufficient, and your time has come. Because if you keep waiting for the right opportunity, the right experience, the right time, I'm sorry, but your time might never come because others would have taken your cake and eaten it too. Then that's how it works. So Marshall, so that's principle number 3 is, I would say, competence is important, but confidence is paramount. Take on the roles you are taking, means just take on the role and figure it out. And I'll tell you how in a bit, what else can you do. But there's a great line from Marshall Goldsmith. Marshall Goldsmith is the #1 leadership thinker in the world. He wrote a book which says, the title is What Got You Here Won't Get You There. What got you here won't get you there. So you continuously learn and grow. So as you lead during turbulent times, the third principle is to remain calm and remember, competence is important, confidence is paramount. So now, what did the mouse do when he, what did the mouse say when he saw the mousetrap? What did the mouse say when he saw the mousetrap? All right. Of course, yeah, he said there's a problem. There's a mousetrap in the house. So as I speak in a conference, I'm in a university of some PhD students, and somebody said the mouse should go to the hen and said there's a hen trap in the house, and go to the goat and say there's a goat trap in the house, and go to the cow and say there's a cow trap in the house. So so the key point here, principle, don't communicate ideas, infuse ideas. You see, many people keep saying they have a lot of ideas. However, having ideas is not enough. The question I ask is, or rather ask you to consider is this: are you able to infuse ideas? Can you convey your ideas in a way that others buy your ideas and run with it? I once met a CEO of a large multinational organization, and he shared with me how he recruits his team. So when a person joins the team, he would talk to him or her and transfer his vision. Thereafter, his team becomes the ambassadors of the ideas and run with it. So he transfers the vision, he infuses his idea, and they run with it. So the question to ask is, how good are you in conveying your views to stir people to action? How good are you in converting visitors of your club to members of your club? How good are you in convincing the existing members of your club to become ambassadors of your club? So the solution is to enroll them to your vision, ignite their passion, give them a purpose, and stir them to action, right? So how do you do that? So here are 3 ways to communicate. And the reason I say this is this, because people often do not, so I just have to go back to slide a bit. So the 3 ways to communicate, and the problem is people don't often listen, right? So imagine the guy invented the wheel. It's hard to communicate and get people on his side. So how can you make them listen to you? Here are the 3 ways to communicate. You can tell, you can what? Anybody has any idea over there? You can tell, you can yell. That also works sometimes. All parents don't know that. And you can yell, you can sell. Okay? You can tell, yell, and sell. Yeah. So you probably heard people saying, oh, I told him many times, he never listened to me. So the question to ask is this: are you telling, yelling, or selling? The best leaders are masters in the art of selling the ideas and vision. For example, in every club meeting, you have the president's opening address, as you know. And by the way, the question to you is, how do you measure the quality of the president's address? How do you know whether or not he or she did a good job? So when I was forced to become the president of my club many years ago, we had 17 members. The membership was declining. And I had a very good mentor at that time who forced me to take the role. He doesn't admit that he forced me, but he was pretty much forced to take the role. But here's one of the things I started that served us very well. We defined a metric to measure the quality of the president's speech. This might be new for you, but I'll just share it with you. Okay. So here's the metric I used. By the end of the meeting, I asked this question: how many visitors signed up as members? And that's how I measured my performance. So the opening address is to generate interest, and the closing address is to close the sale. So of course, you can also brainstorm on these ideas. If possible, you can define a metric for each role, maybe for the vice president membership, vice president public relationship. For example, their metric could be how many members became ambassadors. You see, every member is a free resource you can utilize to further the mission of your club. And you don't have to do it alone. You can create sub teams. You can give members responsibility, visibility, make them feel significant. And they don't have to be members, club leaders, but they can be members. So the objective is to delegate, empower, and develop your successors, because great leaders create great leaders. Weak leaders create blind followers, right? So you have to delegate, empower, and that you're also growing from the inside. So for example, for the vice president education, when I was the president, my mentor Chuck Kim, he told me, Manoj, the club has become too weak. We only have 17 members, and to get more members, put together a great show during every meeting. So here's the thing. We asked, have you put together a fantastic show? Did the meeting demonstrate how great your product is? Were you being innovative, to stand ahead of the competition? That means other clubs and other alternatives, right? So you can tell, you can yell, and you can sell. Now, when I keep saying sell, 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 some people are very averse to the word selling. They say, yeah, they don't like selling. They hate selling. They hate people who sell. But the point is, as humans, we are always selling. We are always selling. If you don't believe me, you have to sell to get a date. You have to find a mate, to get a job, to get an income, to get a pay raise, to eat, to breathe, to lead. Brian Tracy once said, people who do not learn to sell have skinny kids. I didn't say it, Brian Tracy said, okay? So if you believe in the product you are selling and believe it's going to help your guests, sell like hell. Because it's not sales, it's service. For example, if McDonald's, and nothing against McDonald's, but McDonald's and Coca-Cola can convince people to eat their harmful products for decades, why can't you convince more people to experience a product you believe in, right? If you truly believe in, sell. So if you're interested, here's a simple 4-step formula based on spin selling. And this is something you can elaborate, you can make this better. So some of the steps I would say is, ask the right questions to remind. So let me say, so tell I'll sell. So ask the right questions to remind your prospect about the problem. Number 2, remind them of the graver consequences of doing nothing. Position your member as, or rather when you pitch your membership, position a membership as a low risk, low cost, high value solution that solves their problems permanently. Number 4 would be to sell the emotional benefits. So the point is, you have to sell down the emotional benefit, because nobody joins Toastmasters to become an accountant. I mean, unless somebody here, I'm nothing wrong, but nobody joins to become an accountant, right? So you have to link their emotional why to the how of the solution. You know that, but the key, I believe, is to make them dream and think about their future self. Make them feel important, significant, believe in their future. Because what I've seen is, one person believing in you can make you believe your dreams are possible. Just one person believing in you makes it. That's why mentors play a great role. And of course, if you need more helps and ideas, you can get the ideas from your membership as well. For example, ask these 3 questions from your current and past members. Why did you join? Why did you stay? Why did you leave? Right? It's a simple question. So basically, become a professional salesman or salesperson with a sales script and a follow-up mechanism to close the sales. Because the skills you learn will help you to negotiate a better salary, to find a better job, to build your own enterprise. So in our club, we did these simple things, and our results speaks for itself. Our club membership that year went from 17 members to over 50 members. That's 3 times the growth. We doubled our number of meetings. We had 3 times our bank balance. Our club won 4 district trophies that year, and 3 leaders who went on to form other clubs internationally. So these ideas are very simple, okay? But I think I've seen that work, so I share with you. So here's a 3rd principle: as you lead during turbulent times, don't just communicate your ideas, infuse ideas. Now that takes me to the next lesson, which is, why didn't the other animals help the mouse, right? The key is she didn't, or rather didn't build a relationship. So one of the things I highlight is to focus on building relation before transaction. Relation before transaction. This is absolutely critical. You see, one of the top leaders I'm coaching, he's a CEO of a $20 billion company, and he has 3 other mentors. So one of his mentors, I'm in a panel, is a former UK Prime Minister. I don't want to name the CEO or the Prime Minister, but he's a very influential Prime Minister. So one of the person in my team asked me, Manoj, what did you do to get to coach those such top leaders? You are not even living in the UK or the US. I live in Singapore, by the way. And but I think the principle I learned is very simple: become recommendable. Become recommendable. Basically means no matter who you meet, focus on the relation before the transaction. Relation before the transaction. This can give you amazing results. So which means you talk the talk and walk the talk instead of talking to the walk. Okay, so it's just keep on doing the right things and building the reciprocal relationships. And one more thing I learned, and this is also I learned from the leaders I coach, is that no one is above you and no one is below you. And the idea behind that is treat the CEO and the janitor the same. Yeah, treat the CEO and janitor the same. And so you have to show courage and compassion. So one day the janitor might recommend you to the CEO. So I told one of my clients, you have to be nice to the janitor because you don't know tomorrow the janitor might marry the CEO's daughter, right? So you have to take care of everybody. And so that's it. Relation before transaction, be recommendable. And in short, in your context, help others, offer help. And in these kind of turbulent times, the question to ask is not, how can I survive? The question to ask is, how can I serve? How can I serve? There are people who have worse situation than you. So that's that's actually the fourth principle. I think I missed. Okay, that's fine. Relation before transaction. So I just had one challenge, a couple of more tips here. So dig your wells and build your bridges long before you need them. So don't look everything as a transaction. Yeah, build the relationships. And so you can ask people like Lark, who can tell you the number of relationships they built over the years. I would like to quickly share with you a couple of points. Is the 4 people you'll meet in a team. This I've taken from Mark Hansen's book, and I've developed this slightly further. You see, there are 4 types of people you'll meet in a team. You see, there's one group of people. One group of people who are like snails, right? You see the horizontal, focused on the job and focused off the job. These people are neither focused on their job or neither focused on the other things other people do, right? They just exist. You've probably seen people like that. They're part of the team, but they don't do anything, right? They just exist. Then there are some people who do everything they're supposed to do, but don't care about anybody else. They just do their job and ignore everybody else. They won't offer help. So these are like stars. If first is snail, second is like stars, superstars, right? They do their job. You ask them to do something else, they say, no, that's not my job. You didn't ask me to do it initially. Then there are people who are like butterflies. You ask them to do one job, they won't do the job and do something else. So you ask them to do A, they will do B. And if you ask them, why don't you do A? He said, oh my God, I'm busy doing B, right? Say, you are not asked to do B. Okay, so people like that, they're butterfly, they fly around. Then the real leaders I've seen are people who are like trees. They do their job, but also help others. So your objective as a leader, no matter what your title says, is to help these individuals to become like trees. Right. So now here is one thing. Okay, I'll come to that slide a bit. So there's one thing Toastmasters doesn't teach you, but you're forced to learn. Screen share slop. Okay, that's a screen share. So anybody has any idea what could be that? One thing they don't teach you in Toastmasters, but you're forced to learn. Let me see again. Here is the thing. So what I would say is this. Emotional self-regulation. Let me tell you what that is. Maybe Lark might know this because she has been gone the highest in this organization. Basically, what I look at is, a lot of people will trigger you. In this organization, a lot of people will trigger you. They will say, I will do thing, I will show up on time. They will not show up on time. There are people who promise you something and never do it. You are constantly triggered, you're constantly tested, you're constantly shortchanged. So the key lesson you will learn is you will always see your emotion going haywire. So you learn how to do emotional self-regulation. That's a very interesting and important skill to learn. So if you take it as those challenges as opportunities to grow, you will learn you can stay stable in turbulent times. Of course, there are a few other things Toastmasters teach you, but not in the curriculum. Okay, so this is something that's not in the curriculum, but you have to learn. And I always face the problem every day, right? I mean, so I learned that, oh, my roles I did before helped me stay ready for this challenge to avoid amygdala hijack. Okay, so going to this is, of course, you will have conflicts, you will have problems, you will have people coming in your way, people don't agree with you. So learn to collaborate, or rather I would say tolerate, cooperate, operate. Collaboration is your force multiplier. Collaboration is your force multiplier. You can get more things done with that kind of collaboration. So now the question is what? So of course, if you're interested to know more, some of you already read the whole version of the book. I'll also put some links. So there is 18 lessons to discover the leader in you. If you want to read the book, you can read. No pressure, but I'll send you there's also a video on YouTube about the book. Yeah, I will paste the link later. So now the question is the last lesson. What happened to the mouse? I'll paste the letter, all the lessons to the end. Okay, what happened to the mouse? Anybody wants to guess? And after that I'm going to stop. Yeah. Yes. Anybody want to get what happened to the mouse? Oh, he carried on. All right. So what happened to he died alone. Somebody says the mouse died alone, and I'm okay. Okay. So what happened to the mouse is this: the mouse became the boss of the house, right? The mouse became the boss of the house. Now people ask me, what did the mouse do to become the boss of the house? In fact, the mouse didn't do anything. Sometimes, opportunities just fall on your lap. Opportunities just fall on your lap. The question to ask is, when I say that, people say, now I know how my boss got promoted, right? I mean, the opportunities fell on his lap. Okay. So sometimes you don't have to do anything in particular to become a leader. Opportunities fall on your lap. The question to ask is, are you ready to lead? You're never too small to be big, but are you ready to lead? Are you ready to lead? Something to think about, you see. Marshall Goldsmith is the number one leadership thinker in the world. He says, what got you here won't get you there. So one of the things he said when I wrote the book, he said the mousetrap way, this thing I just shared with you, will teach you what is to be a great leader and how to get there. And that for me was a huge achievement. I didn't start off as a leadership expert. I learned my way to the top, and still I have a lot of way to go to the top. Okay, I'm at least on the journey to the top. But the point here is, what are the think about is this, right? What are the problems in your club, in your division, or in your district that needs leadership? Those are the mousetrap in your house that affects you, your club, your division. So don't ignore them, and don't think that's not the problem for us to solve, because as the mousetrap story tells us, the mousetrap is not just the problem of the mouse. So here's the thing. Think like a leader, act like a leader. Perhaps 10 years from now, right? When 10 years from now, when you look back to this day, you might remember that, remember this event, you might remember this mousetrap story, you might remember the tiger mindset, you might have embraced eternal optimism, you might have mastered the art of selling and networking, you might have mastered emotional self-regulation, or you might have mastered how to influence without authority, or you might be the leader who get invited here to share your leadership stories for the benefit of others. Because when you're on the mousetrap way, you are never too small to be big. And as you lead during these turbulent times, I close with these wise words from Jim Rohn, who said, don't wish things were better. Wish you were better. So I believe that's an idea worth spreading to all your team members. And I will share I've shared all the links and all the messages, all the principles in the chat. Honored to share the stage with all of you. And I see you at the top.
Please join me with a big round of applause. Thank you so much, Manoj. That was an absolutely amazing presentation and an excellent setting of the tone for the rest of our training today. One thing I really took away was about remembering that all of our members are ambassadors for our clubs. And I think this is, when we see this in companies, this is when a company has a strong culture. So that's why we need to replicate that in our clubs and across the Toastmasters international community. Moving on, we're going to really knuckle down and focus on our roles in our clubs. And in order to introduce our next presentation, I'm going to invite Venetian up. Thank you very much, Venetian.
Thank you, Amy. Well, what a great keynote. There's so much there, so much to learn. Well, roles and responsibilities. Well, this is quite key, isn't it? There's so much that needs to be done, and also things to reflect on, perhaps. Well, what did get you from the 1st of July 2020 up until now, on the 9th of January 2021? And what got you to here? Is it going to get you to the 30th of June 2021 in terms of your objectives, your club objectives, or your personal objectives? Well, these are sort of things that you're going to be able to have a chance, an opportunity to discuss with your peers, with your facilitators in the breakout rooms, and perhaps infuse some of those ideas and come along and think it through and go, well, what do we do next? How are we going to go about doing and facing the challenges that comes our way from now until the end of the Toastmasters year? But that will be an interesting one. So I will encourage you to network with your peers, network with your facilitators, at least get their contact details, and then start the conversation. Remember, relation before transaction. Yeah. And also get into the habit of keeping contact, because you never know where the next good idea is, because at some point, whatever challenges that you're facing, the answer will be in that room. It's a question of asking. So get your ask into gear. So at the moment, Alan has been busily preparing the breakout rooms. Alan, are we ready at the moment for the breakout?
We're ready to go.
We are ready to go. Okay, so with a flick of a button, Alan shall be sending you all to your breakout room. So enjoy your breakout room, and we shall see you after your breakout sessions. Enjoy. Yes, the magic button is working well, by the looks of it.
Needed extra time.
Yes, you leave your room before you get thrown out.
I believe that might be everyone out. Alan, can you concur?
Yep, everyone's back.
Okay, perfect. Well, I hope you all enjoyed our breakout rooms with our leaders from all over and different clubs sharing experiences. I know I certainly did. Before we have our next keynote speaker, which is Lark, we're going to have a short little break. So if you could please be back just before 10:55 to ensure we're on time for our next keynote speaker. Thank you, everyone. To get us started.
Well, thank you, Amy. Well, welcome back, everybody, after your break. I hope you've had a lovely little break, and also a good first third, shall I say, of the training, of the TLI training. So far, I hope it's gone well. I did manage to pop in and out of the various breakout rooms. There certainly seemed to be some very interesting conversations going on around all sorts of things, including the mousetrap and yeah, some. So it looked like a lot of engagement going on. So that sounded really positive. So on to our second session, after the first break. Well, we have our second keynote speaker. And our second keynote speaker is the 2018-2019 Toastmasters International President. She wears gold at Toastmasters event to symbolize the priceless benefits of our organization. She resides in a lighthouse home on Lake Travis near Austin, Texas, US of A, that her late husband, Roger, built in honor of her father-in-law, Arthur. So let us give a good old yeehaw welcome to the one and only, the golden lady herself, with a keynote entitled Golden Principles. Please welcome Lark Doley.
Good morning, Division H of District 91. It is always a golden honor to be with you. And my roots go to England through my husband, Roger, whom I miss every single day. So he was born in Nottingham, and his father, Arthur, was also born there. And I had the privilege to travel to England many times to visit his family. And thankfully, District 91 actually put me on a train in January of 2020, before the COVID pandemic, to visit my relatives in Nottingham that I hadn't seen in 12 years. So it is so golden to be with you today. And at every Toastmasters event and every Toastmasters meeting, I learn something. And that's why I stay in this organization. I celebrated my 30th anniversary in Toastmasters in September of 2020, and I will be a member of this organization for my life. This morning, your opening keynote, I learned so much from him, from Manoj, and I had the privilege to be the Toastmaster of the evening at that international convention where he won the world championship. So I was so honored this morning to have the privilege to hear him speak about a topic he is obviously passionate about and is very competent and knowledgeable about. But today I will share with you some of the golden leadership principles that I have learned over the last 30 years through my Toastmasters Association. And I am now going to share my screen with you so that we can get started. I have my chat master, my golden chat master today, your Division H director, Venetian. So we will be interacting throughout this presentation because in sharing, I will learn from you and you will learn from one another. My first question for you to enter into the chat is, why did you join Toastmasters? I believe that each one of us need to be able to succinctly express why we join this organization. Or if we've been in it more than a few years, we need to be able to express why we stay. And I just told you that I stay because I learned something every single day in this organization. But right now, I want you to enter into the chat why you joined, or if you've been a member for multiple years, why you stay, and be succinct. And as you write, our chat master, your Division H director, Venetian, is going to read off some of your responses. So Venetian, what are they saying in the chat?
Well, Catherine Cannon says, because my manager at work said it looks like a kind of thing. It looks like your kind of thing. Right, okay. Rachel Norris, I was encouraged by a friend who thought I would enjoy it. Jonathan Kay, self-improvement is my personal meaning of life. Geeta Ramachandran, passion for speaking and passion for learning together. Very interesting. Philip Balota, a girl I liked was going there. Wow.
All right, I think we'll stop at that one. But I want each of you to be able to express why you joined or why you stay. And by the way, presidents of clubs, vice presidents education, vice presidents of membership, you need to know why each member of your club joined and why they stay, and make sure that they are achieving their reasons for joining, their reasons for staying at every meeting of your club. All right, so my next question for all of you is, what have you gained from your membership in Toastmasters? And again, think precisely, concisely, express as succinctly as you can what you have gained from your membership in Toastmasters. And when I think about this, I think about all of the competencies in communication and leadership that I have gained. But one benefit, one golden benefit I never imagined are the priceless friendships that I have gained throughout the world. All right, so Venetian, what are they saying they have gained from Toastmasters?
Okay, John Drinkwater, 400% better profits in my work. Well, substantial.
Yeah.
John Vickers, sanity during lockdown. Wow, very important. Julie Cortez, feeling less alone. Abby Adeoye, confidence. Peter Wheely, confidence to speak to a group. Andy Hammond, self-confidence above all else. Table topics from Rachel Norris.
And one more.
Aaron Atkinson, massive gain in confidence. This has helped me develop hugely in both my work and personal life.
Beautiful. I love that last one so much. So Toastmasters supports us in our professional life and in our personal life. My husband was a consummate professional and a consummate speaker before he joined Toastmasters. But he said that Toastmasters gave him the confidence to interact in social settings, to be willing to go up to someone he didn't know and to actually start speaking and communicating with them, entering into a dialogue. So we all joined for different reasons, and we all gain different competencies, skills, and qualities from our membership. All right, so now, what more do you want to gain from your membership in Toastmasters? So if you've just recently joined and you've gained some confidence in communicating, what do you want to gain in the next year? And for those of us who've been members for multiple years, what more do we want to gain? So again, enter what you want to gain into the chat. And as I told you this morning, I have already gained so much, already learned so much from the keynote presentation today. I will take the keynote presentation away with me and use what I learned in that keynote for the next, hopefully, years of my life, decades perhaps, if I'm allowed to live that much longer. All right, so Venetian, what are they saying in the chat?
Okay, Craig Foster says, new skills and connecting with new people. Adrian Moore, progress in business. Krishna Desai, win humorous speaker / table topics context next year. Yes, why not? Looking
Great
forward
goal.
to it. John Drinkwater, leadership skills. Who else have we got? Catherine Cannon, growing leadership skills in others. Okay.
One more.
What does a Bommel to be able to build my own club?
Wonderful. We want to share the gold of Toastmasters with more and more people. That's why we should always be recruiting new members and absolutely be chartering new clubs around the world. We have an incredible message, incredible skill development for everyone around the world. All right, so my final question on this slide anyway is, what is your next golden step in Toastmasters? So what's your next path? What's your next leadership role? I want you to type into the chat what your next step in Toastmasters is, be it a communication goal, a leadership goal, a pathways goal. And again, with the introduction of pathways, I have so many opportunities for my next step. I will tell you this year and next year, I have prescribed roles for me as a past president, but I look forward to serving as an area director in a couple of years because I loved that role. It's a direct influence on the clubs, and I can't wait to serve in that role again. That is, if the district director at that time will appoint me to that role. All right, so Venetian, what are they saying in the chat?
Okay, Martin Madden wants a triple crown. Yes. Isla
Wonderful.
O'Hara, complete level 5. Okay. Peter Wiley, be chief judge at a contest. Okay. Adrian Moore, LD3. That's leadership, dynamic leadership, I believe. Abby Adeoye, grow, build, and lead. Lucy Brooks, launch our new online club and get chartered within 4 months.
Oh, fantastic. All right, one more.
So we have James Kirby, complete pathways level 1.
Great. Thank you all. So again, we need to set new goals every year in Toastmasters so that we can continue to grow in our organization. Today, I do want to focus on 7 C's that I consider to be golden leadership principles. By the way, anyone notice who's on the picture on the slide? I hope that you recognize some of the individuals on that slide, and I believe that they're golden leaders and that they use these golden leadership principles in their leadership. The first golden leadership principle is communication. So I want you to type into the chat the different forms of communication that you use on a daily basis. So think about all the forms of communication and which forms of communication do you use on a daily basis. Type that into the chat. So I will tell you that I use Zoom on a daily basis. I use it at work. And what I love now about our new online world is that I use Zoom to interact with my granddaughters at least on a weekly basis. And I can tell you that these granddaughters live 30 minutes away from me, and I communicate with them more regularly now that we're in the pandemic than I did before the pandemic. It's so easy to Zoom with them, and they like Zooming with me. I'm not sure why, as their grandmother, but I love communicating with them in that form. All right, so Venetian,
Yes.
which forms of communication are they typing into the chat?
Catherine Cannon says listening. Rachel Norris, texting a friend. Goulet, social media. Helen Butcher, behavior. Body language, says Phil Deeks. Annalise Lepage, text and messenger. WhatsApp and FaceTime is from Krishna Desai. Non-verbal and body language from Eleanor Harmon. Jonathan K. Speaking, listening, body language, technology. Yeah.
All right. So I knew that you were a brilliant group. The fact that you put in communication, listening, nonverbal behavior, those are forms of communication that most people don't think about, but they absolutely are forms of communication. All right, so my next question to you, and you do not have to enter this into the chat, but I want you to think about the most effective forms of communication for you. And I also want you to think about how effective were you as a communicator before you joined Toastmasters? And how effective are you as a communicator now that you've been a member of Toastmasters? So when you think about your most effective forms of communication, I think that I am effective verbally, and certainly more than I ever was before I joined Toastmasters. But I also believe I've become a more effective communicator non-verbally in my listening skills. I've also become a better communicator in my written skills. So think about how effective you are in the various forms of communication and how hopefully Toastmasters has helped you to become more effective in each of those forms of communication. And think about, all right, what can Toastmasters do to help me become more effective this year in each of those forms of communication? And is there a form of communication that I haven't pursued that I should pursue this year? So why do I spend so much time talking about the very first principle of golden leadership? And it is because I believe that communication is the foundation of every aspect of leadership. From the time we wake up in the morning until the time we fall asleep at night, we are communicating in one form or another. So communication is the foundation of golden leadership. I want you to now think about your communication style. We have forms of communication, but we also each have a communication style. And we usually have a dominant communication style. And there are many communication style assessments. I like to think of these 4 different communication styles. The first one is the driver. Minces no words, gets directly to the point, needs no explanation, and expects no explanation. So the driver drives to results, minces no words, gets directly to the point. Are you a driver? The second communication style, analytical. Do you have to gather facts before you make a decision? Do you analyze those facts before speaking even your opinion? Are you analytical in your communication style? The third communication style, are you amiable? Do you support everyone else on the team? And do you support them sometimes to your own detriment? Do you avoid conflict? Is your mantra teamwork, teamwork, teamwork? It's all about the team, and you will do anything in your power to support the team. Are you amiable in your communication style? And the final communication style is expressive, the extrovert, the futurist, the intuitor, who speaks before she thinks. That communication style often describes me, and Toastmasters has helped me to learn to think before I speak. So I ask you, are you a driver? Are you analytical? Are you amiable? Are you expressive? You need to know your communication style, and you need to analyze the communication styles of those with whom you interface. And you need to match their communication style in order to be most effective in communicating with others. Communication, the foundation of golden leadership. The second key to golden leadership is commitment. And in our keynote today, we heard about taking initiative. Commitment is measured by your actions. Commitment is an act, not a word. You prove your commitment through your actions. Your commitment will be evaluated by your actions. Others will judge your level of commitment through your actions. So how committed are you to your career, to your family, to Toastmasters? Your actions will prove that level of commitment. So, we are halfway through the Toastmasters year. Have you achieved what you committed to achieve in the first 6 months of the Toastmasters year? Have you fulfilled your personal commitments to yourself? Have you fulfilled your leadership commitments to your club, to the district, to our organization? So this is a question that you need to answer. What actions will you take in the coming week to demonstrate your commitment to Toastmasters, to your career, and to your personal life? And finally, who will hold you accountable for those commitments by mentoring you? These are 3 key commitment questions. And now what I'd like you to do is I would like you to enter a response to one of these 3 questions in the chat right now. So enter a response. Have you achieved what you committed to achieve in the first 6 months of the year? What actions will you take in the coming week to demonstrate your commitment? And do you have a mentor? And if you have a mentor, who is that mentor? I can tell you when I served as international president, I had 3 past presidents as my mentors. They each served a different role in mentoring me during that year. So what about you? All right, so Venetian, let's just see if we can hear some of the answers to these questions in the chat. Are they entering their responses to one of these questions in the chat?
Yes, we have a few answers at the moment. So Sophie Dumaine. It is scientifically proven that we adjust our communication style according to every person that we communicate with, and also should adjust our communication style according to the type of social interaction we are in.
Beautiful.
That's a wonderful response. Adrian, I will deliver a successful speech craft program.
Oh,
yes.
Thank you for that. Brilliant.
James Kirby, we have a URL address.
Okay.
Perhaps we can share that later. John Drinkwater, ahead of schedule. I have many mentors for different reasons. Yes. Helen Butcher, 2 posts on corporate intranet per month as part of a recruitment campaign. So far so good, and on the way to achieve to achieve for second half. Sounds good.
Beautiful. All right, so I want each of you to be sure that you answer these questions to yourself and that you take these away to demonstrate your commitment. So this year, I am the DLC chair for my home district, District 55. That is my commitment, and we are on track to meet that commitment for recruiting and interviewing candidates for district officer positions in the 2021-2022 year. All right. Our third golden key to leadership is collaboration. So what is your definition of collaboration? Enter into the chat right now your definition of collaboration. And again, our keynote speaker at the beginning of your TLI this morning talked about collaboration during his presentation and how important collaboration is in leadership. So what is your definition of collaboration? Venetian, what are they entering into the chat?
Okay, so Jonathan says working together. That sounds a good one. Working together, I've got more working togethers. Working together to achieve a shared goal, Martin Madden. Helen Butcher, working together to achieve a common goal. Yes.
Yes.
It's Don Cook, listening.
One more. Listening.
One more. Lots of working together. Lots of working together. Support others and get supported. Jansi Sharma.
Beautiful. And absolutely, it is working together as a team for a common goal. That's the most common definition of collaboration. It is leveraging the strengths of the team. It is valuing the different perspectives of the team and then coming to a common conclusion about how to move forward. So collaboration is incredibly important. And I believe in our organization that collaboration starts with our core values. Our core values of integrity. Every interaction should be approached with integrity. We should respect every individual in our organization, their strengths and their desires to improve themselves. Then we should approach our organization and our members with service, with a servant's heart. And then we should pursue every endeavor with excellence. It is also very important that we remove ego from our organization, and collaboration cannot happen with ego. We must work as a team toward a common goal and leverage the strengths of each member of the team through collaboration. What about conflict? Have you ever experienced conflict? Have you experienced it in your career? Have you experienced it in your personal life? Have you experienced it in Toastmasters? Please tell me you have not. Yes, we've all experienced conflict. And now what I want you to do is define conflict. So what is your definition of conflict? Venetian, what are they putting into the chat for their definition of conflict?
Okay, so we have a few coming through. Rachel Morris says huge disagreements. Yes, and Krishna decides two differing views, clash in opinions, beliefs, or thoughts from Fatma Salaholu. John Vickers, unconstructive criticism. And different purposes, lack of understanding from Don Cook.
And one more.
Headbutting with others, Tash Gardner.
I appreciate all of your definitions and agree with them. We welcome healthy debate. We welcome healthy discourse, healthy discussions. We welcome disagreements to find different perspectives. But the definition today that I am using for conflict is just as you have stated. It is battle, it is controversy, it is discord. It is negative and it is destructive. So to me, conflict is the absence of communication. It's the absence of collaboration. It is ego-driven. Anytime conflict arises, we must address it immediately. And the solution to conflict is communication and mediation if needed to establish collaboration. And in order for us to achieve the missions of our clubs, our districts, our international organization, we need to have our words and our actions match and positively support the specific mission we are addressing. So the way to diffuse conflict is to talk with that individual about how their actions are supporting the mission, how their words are supporting the mission, to dissolve, diffuse, resolve the conflict. So the absence of conflict is the fourth golden key to leadership. Change. Have we experienced change this year or starting last year? Yes, dramatic change. So we are living in uncertain times. We are living in turbulent times. We have experienced the storms of change. I will tell you, during my year as president, I thought we were experiencing change. I did not know the definition of change until 2020. In 2018, 2019, the change we were experiencing was transitioning to pathways, moving world headquarters to Colorado, resourcing our logistics, holding a virtual September district council meeting. Those were the types of changes we were experiencing in 2018, 2019, not a global pandemic. So what are our reactions to change? Well, our negative reactions to change start with denial and end with distrust. But our positive reactions to change are acknowledgement and finally acceptance and making a positive habit out of whatever challenging opportunity we have been given. And when I think about the pandemic, I think about the golden linings in those storm clouds. I think about the rainbows of opportunities that we've been given. Yes, COVID has challenged us, but we have positively reacted to COVID. I was at the March board meeting when the pandemic struck our world, and we reacted quickly as the board of directors and told our clubs that in order to be sure that our members were safe, that they had to begin meeting online. Was it challenging? Was it a dramatic change for our organization? Absolutely it was. But all of you rose to that challenge. You adapted to that change. In order to be a golden leader, we have to adapt to change. We have to grow and develop, and change helps us to do that. The sixth golden key to leadership is courage. I believe that we as an organization face the pandemic with courage. And I told our president last year, Deepak Menon, that he was our president courageous. And then Aletta Rocha, our international director from Region 11, coined the phrase Captain Courageous. And I believe that that will stick with our president of last year. But our president this year is also an incredibly courageous president. And I believe that our board of directors is making courageous decisions. And you are making courageous decisions to meet online, to recruit new members online, to charter new clubs online. So thank you for your courage, your courageous leadership during these challenging times. And I think about Pathways and what would have happened if we hadn't transitioned to Pathways, our beautiful online educational program now, 11 paths with over 300 competencies. Yes, Pathways has challenged us, and we will continue to improve Pathways, but it is a program that helps us develop our communication and leadership skills. And now all of you are meeting online, and post-pandemic, I hope that you will continue to meet online, that you will be hybrid clubs or online clubs for the rest of our journey in Toastmasters so that we can be an inclusive organization, a global organization where people can be members of clubs around the world as they are today. And the final golden key to leadership is celebration. I think that District 91 and Division H does a golden job of celebrating. So I went to Facebook. Adrian, thank you for recommending that I go to Facebook to capture some images of your celebrations, and also your Division H director and area director sent me some photographs. But look at these golden celebrations. Look at the celebrations of your clubs meeting different challenges. Individuals, the Triple Crown, your distinguished Toastmasters, your contest winners. All of these are golden celebrations, and we always need to celebrate our achievements. Celebrate them at our club meetings, at our district meetings, at our international events. So, have you learned the 7 golden leadership keys? Well, let's review them again. Communication is the foundation of leadership. Commitment is fulfilled through your actions, proven through your actions, evaluated through your actions, judged through your actions. Collaboration thrives in the absence of ego. Conflict vanishes in the absence of ego. It vanishes and collaboration arises. Change, while difficult, spurs innovation. Courage is required to make the tough leadership decisions. And finally, we must always celebrate to recognize achievement. Our organization begins at the club level and goes all the way from club to area to division to district, region, and international. There are leadership opportunities at every level of our organization, golden leadership opportunities. My favorite leadership quote is, "If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader." So, Division H leaders, what is your next golden step in Toastmasters? It has been my honor to be with you today. Thank you, Division H, for inviting me to your Golden Toastmasters Leadership Institute. I hope that my sharing of golden leadership principles will help you in your leadership journey.
Thank you so much, Lark. As a past international president, it is so inspiring that you're still so committed to serving our community, and that's an inspiration to all of us today. One thing I really took away from your presentation was about the courage of our leaders in the last 12 months. So that's a key word that I'm going to reflect on moving forward. Now, moving on from some golden leadership with Lark, our mindset influences us as leaders and when we're leading in our clubs. So our next presenter, Brett Freeman, is presenting to us the magic of a mentoring mindset. Thank you so much, Brett.
Thank you very much. I'm really delighted to be here with all of you today. It's a fantastic opportunity to be able to be at a leadership online event such as this. And the way that we've all come together, I've just noticed we've got well over 100 participants today. So that's brilliant. And following on from Lark, you know, what an amazing message for all of us as we sit here on the other sides of our screens thinking about not only leadership, but what does new Toastmasters leadership look like? Because we are now working in very different environments. So if we think about the mentoring mindset, what does that mean exactly? And so what I'd like to do is just talk a little bit about what mindset has to do with mentoring anyway. How do we as leaders create that mindset, create that ability for us to be able to really impact not only our clubs, not only the members of our clubs, but what about the wider organization? What about Toastmasters as a whole? And as we move forward, as we look towards the next thing in our Toastmasters journey. So let's start now with thinking about, and again, following on from Lark, funny how we start our presentations with the same question. So the question to you, why are you a Toastmaster? What is it about Toastmasters that keeps you involved, keeps you interested, keeps you coming back? And so I won't ask you to put anything in the chat because we've had lots and lots of chat from Lark's presentation. But the thing about Toastmasters is, and maybe a better question is, what surprised you about Toastmasters? And so for me, when I joined Toastmasters, a number of years ago, the thing that surprised me was the amount of personal growth that I experienced. When I originally joined Toastmasters, I was already an accomplished speaker. I had a television career. I was used to being in front of large audiences. And so I thought, yeah, Toastmasters will be a bit of fun. It'll give me an opportunity to have, sort of a sandbox, a captive audience, if you will, to kind of try some things out. What I wasn't expecting was the leadership development, the leadership growth, and the things that Toastmasters brought to me in those areas. And so, how about you? How has Toastmasters changed your life? How has Toastmasters increased or added to your life in areas other than just public speaking? And so when we think about, all of those, for me, all those years ago when I first walked in the Toastmasters door, how about you when you first walked in the Toastmasters door? What was your first impression? Oh my gosh, there's all these people and they use all these words that I'm not familiar with. And they use acronyms like HATS, and they evaluate everything that they do. And it was a lot to take in. And so as we think about mentorship, that's kind of how we typically think about mentorship. But mentorship is much, much deeper than that. So when we think about why we are Toastmasters, and we think about how leadership comes into it, first of all, I'd like to kind of give us a working definition of mindset. So when you think about that word mindset, what kind of pops into your mind? What sort of ideas, what sort of thoughts come into your mind about mindset? And what does that have to do with leadership anyway? So first, let's define leadership. And as we define leadership, or define mindset rather, what's going on? What's going on in our minds? What's going on in our experience that leads us to generate a mindset? And so really, mindset is essentially a set of beliefs that contribute to your overall actions and attitudes. So what happens? So within our, within our brains, as we work in our daily lives, we work through whatever experiences that we're having, what happens is we're experiencing the world through our senses, right? We experience the world through the things we see, through the things we hear, things we taste, smell, the things we feel inside. And what happens as we start to experience the world is we then bring that experience kind of inside of our minds, right? And everybody's mind, everybody's brain is different. We have, over 100 people on this particular call today. So, there's over 100 different versions of this presentation going on right now, and none of them are the ones that I think I'm giving. Because what happens is as we pull these experiences in, we then start to filter them based on a number of things, based on our internal belief system, based on maybe our upbringing, based on the culture, based on our surroundings, based on any number of things. And so really what happens is we take these experiences and we start to change them. And as we change them, we tend to distort sometimes, we tend to delete information sometimes, we tend to generalize information sometimes, and we all do it. And we all do it differently, again, based on those things that have happened in our life. And so as we start to change the information, what we do is we create an internal picture of what's going on. And that internal picture is often different for everyone. And the thing is that as we start to create that internal picture, then all of a sudden that internal picture starts to control our behaviors. And that's where our mindset starts to impact the things we do. So let me give you an example. So when you first started at Toastmasters, maybe you started Toastmasters because you wanted to learn to become a better public speaker. And maybe speaking in front of an audience, large or small, really kind of freaked you out a little bit. And so why was that going on? As you stood up in front of Toastmasters to give your first table topic, maybe, right? Or your first icebreaker speech, what was going on in your mind? And what was causing you to be nervous? There was a group of people, Toastmasters, as you know now, Toastmasters that are all sitting in the audience, really rooting for you, really supporting you, really wanting you to do well. But oftentimes in our minds, we think, oh my gosh, everybody's looking at me. Oh my gosh, I hope I don't mess this up. Oh my gosh, this is really, really, really nerve wracking. And so what happens is we've based that experience and that internal picture on the things maybe that have happened in the past, or our preconceived notions about what public speaking is all about. And so what happens is we create this internal picture. And when we create that internal picture, then all of a sudden we kind of see ourselves as standing up in front of a group, shaking and being nervous. But now, all these years on, how many of you are quite comfortable doing a table topic? Quite comfortable as you walk into your meeting, or these days as you log into a Zoom meeting and they say, oh, gee, we need somebody to be a grammarian tonight because our grammarian dropped out, or can somebody fill in as the Toastmaster of the evening because our Toastmaster dropped out? And we put our hands up and we say, yeah, sure, no problem. Because our mindset has changed in that respect, because the pictures we're developing in our minds now are not those pictures of being nervous and being anxious. So why do we tend to create those kind of pictures, right? Why do we even create those pictures in the first place? And this really kind of has to do with our evolutionary biology within our brains. So our brains are literally wired to detect threat. So everything we do in our lives is geared to looking at something and deciding whether that thing on the ground is a snake or a stick. And again, this is evolutionary. This comes from, the early days of the human race, when this threat detection was necessary for survival. And so what happens is our brain, there's even more circuitry in our brain, if you will, dedicated to threat detection than there is to anything else. Because no matter what, we're always subconsciously on the lookout for danger. Now, if you think about this in modern times, we walk into a Toastmasters meeting and we stand up in front of a group of people and we're automatically looking for threat. We're automatically trying to find out where the danger is. Gosh, I'm on display. Everybody's looking at me, and that is a bit threatening. Gosh, is that a snake or a stick? I don't know. And so this is where our mindset starts to develop, and this is where sometimes within our mindset we start to develop these sort of negative. And I'm just looking at Adrian's chat in the chat box, actually, the negative self-talk. Right? Oh my gosh, that's what the talk track that's going on in the back of our heads. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Oh my gosh, this is a really, there's so many people on this call, or there's so many people in this room, and oh no, I don't know what I'm going to do. And so that self-talk becomes really, really important. Again, I'll give you a quick story. So a number of years ago, as I mentioned, I had a television career as a sports presenter, and I was hosting the snooker on ITV, and it was live. Right. And as I was delivering my parts of the camera, the way it works is that, I've got an earpiece in my ear, and there's lots of stuff going on because they do all the pre-talk, and I was to announce all of the snooker players as they came into the arena. And so I'm listening to the chat, and I'm listening to the announcers talk about, what we're going to see during the day, and kind of setting the scene. And in my mind, I'm thinking, don't screw up, don't screw up, don't screw up. Oh my gosh, don't screw up, don't screw up. And that was my talk track. And what happened with my internal talk track, so that I'm listening to the announcers in my earpiece, and then the way it goes is when it gets ready to it says, okay, Brett, get ready, you're on 10. And then they give me a countdown. They 5, 4, 3, 2, cue Brett. And I'm supposed to look to the camera and deliver my piece. And so as I'm thinking, don't screw up, don't screw up, don't screw up, guess what happens? More often than not, I would stumble my words. More often than not, I would say something that sounded very different in my head than when it came out. Right. And so my talk track really started to impact my ability to do my job. And as I started to think about that internally, I thought, okay, so what can I do here with my mindset? Because I'm nervous, right? And so what I realized, is that my talk track was the thing that was getting in the way, right? And I had a chat with somebody, and I don't know if any of you are skiers, but this was really kind of an important chat for me. So I was talking to this guy, and he was telling me about skiing, and he was, a really good skier in an advanced run. And any of you that ski, as you're looking at an advanced run, getting ready to go down the hill, are you looking at the trees, or are you looking at your line? Right. So he was telling me all about how, he's trying to find these new lines. He's trying to, become a really good skier. And it kind of clicked in my head. And I thought, when I'm in front of the camera and I'm getting ready to deliver, I'm looking at the trees. Don't screw up, don't screw up, don't screw up. I'm never looking at my line. I'm going to absolutely nail this presentation. Right? Instead, I'm always kind of focused elsewhere. And that was a real kind of eye-opening moment for me. And all of a sudden, everything became sticks, and there were no more snakes. Because as I heard, 5, 4, 3, 2, cue Brett, I thought, I'm going to smash this. And then all of a sudden, you could see it on my face as I watch, old footage. You can see the nerves, and then you can see when the nerves go away. It was all about developing this mindset. So really key that we think about our mindset. And so when it comes to mindset, I'll just quickly introduce you to two different mindsets, and this has been identified by a lady called Carol Dweck. And so Carol Dweck does a lot of work in the area of growth mindset. And so we typically have two mindsets. We have what's called a fixed mindset, and we have what's called a growth mindset. And it's not that we are one or the other, but we typically have both all of the time. And so sometimes, a fixed mindset is that thing that says, look, I've got a certain amount of skill, a certain amount of talent, a certain amount of intelligence. And as long as I operate within those boundaries, then everything will be fine. A growth mindset, on the other hand, says, look, I can develop skills. I can develop talent. I can even develop intelligence. And so when you see how these mindsets work and how they kind of work within each other, sometimes a fixed mindset's good, right? If I'm an accountant, for instance, and there are rules to accounting. And so I need to be very fixed mindset about my accounting principles, right? A growth mindset, when you're learning how to speak publicly, you want to be able to develop those skills. You want to be able to think about how you can become a better speaker. And so these things work. Again, we have both, but what often happens when we are looking around for danger and we decide that we are faced with a room full of snakes instead of a room full of sticks, we automatically go to a fixed mindset, because a fixed mindset is the thing that we feel gives us protection. So what does this mean, really? So we think about a fixed mindset. Fixed mindset is that thing that wants us to avoid challenges, right? A fixed mindset wants us to really, as I said, kind of work within our own boundaries. People with fixed mindsets tend to give up on things, right? They tend to be really critical of themselves. They compare themselves to others, right? Fixed mindset typically is all about proving yourself, right? It's all about focusing on the problems. And when we think about within our Toastmasters clubs, we think about the kind of feedback that we give to speakers. How does our feedback reflect our mindset? Right? On the other hand, when we think about a growth mindset is all about embracing challenges. Right? A growth mindset is, gosh, I can't wait to try this new thing. A growth mindset is all about the journey that we're on. Right? As I'm on this journey, I'm going to be experiencing new things, and new things are great. And the more new things I experience, the more I'm going to learn. When we think about growth mindset is not only are we inspired when we see other people do things, but we are also able to inspire others because they see how we move forward with the growth mindset. So as we think of all of these things with fixed and growth mindset, it's really important that we start to think about how we develop this growth mindset within our clubs, right? So we were all really challenged when COVID came and lockdown came, right? How many clubs struggled for attendance when we first moved to Zoom meetings, right? How many clubs really struggled to get people to fill roles, for instance? How many people's attendance diminished? Because, oh gosh, Zoom, that's too complex for me. And my fixed mindset says, no, I don't want to try that, right? But many clubs have flourished, and the clubs that have flourished are those clubs that have that growth mindset focus. Great, here's a new challenge. Let's learn something new. Let's try something out. Gosh, now we're at a TLI here, and it's virtual, and we've got, well over 100 people, and we've got, people from all over the world attending. That's amazing. Right? How much has Toastmasters grown as a result of what's happened with the current situation? We now have new opportunities we never thought we would have. We can join clubs anywhere we want, right? We can now be a guest at a club in another country really easily. And so all of a sudden, the sort of doors are wide open. And so as we develop a fixed mindset, we can walk through those doors. When we think about it at our own club level, how does our own club level foster a fixed versus growth mindset? Right. Again, if we come back to, say, evaluation criteria, right? What are we evaluating people on? Are we evaluating people on their results, or are we evaluating people on their efforts? Right. So I can see the work that you've been putting in to your latest speech, and I really enjoyed seeing your personal growth. That's a real growth mindset focused feedback. Because what that does is it's focusing on the abilities and the learnings of the individual. Whereas I really enjoyed that speech. You had great tone in your voice. Well, I'm now focusing on the result, and rather than promoting more growth, I'm promoting that result. So that's more of a fixed mindset type feedback. So really important that as we think about the things that we're doing, as we think about the way that we interact with our clubs, what are we doing to promote growth, right? Not just club growth, but individual growth, mindset growth, and how are we helping to develop our learnings? And so, when it comes to mentoring, right, this becomes really, really important. And so the mentoring mindset is a bit different here. A mentoring mindset is, we typically think about mentoring as, somebody new joins a club and they get assigned a mentor, and the mentor then shows them how to do the club, right? That's more of a club buddy, I think, than a mentor, right? That's somebody who's kind of showing them the rules, kind of showing them how we work, explaining all those acronyms I mentioned earlier, right? But mentoring is really investing in the growth of the people that we are working with, right? As we look to our mentees, as we look to our mentors, they're ones that are investing in our growth. And oftentimes mentoring is a bi-directional relationship. And it becomes really, really important. And so as we think about the mentoring mindset, I want to just think about for a minute, what's in it for me, right? If I become a mentee in my club, what do I get out of that? Well, gosh, I'll get, the advantage and the experience of somebody who maybe has been around longer than me. If I'm a mentor, what's in it for me? Gosh, this is the thing that surprised me the most out of Toastmasters, is that the personal growth that I was able to experience and still experience every single day as a result of thinking about that next level, thinking about that next challenge, thinking about, gosh, those people that are my mentors. Some of the people that are my mentors don't even know they're my mentors, right? And for all of us, I'm sure some of the people that are our mentees, we don't even know they're our mentees, because people sit back quietly and they watch. And they think, oh, gosh, I can see I'd really like to maybe step into a club president role next time. And now I'm watching my club president to learn how to do it. Or, gosh, I really like the way that, Lark engaged in her last presentation. I'd really like to engage that way. So I'm gonna maybe follow Lark a little bit and maybe join her club and see what's going on. And we just don't really know, right? And so it's really important that we think about it. And so as we start to think through what's in it for us as mentors, as mentees, what's in it for our clubs, right? How do we continue club growth? If we want to continue to grow our clubs, then the focus needs to be on growing our people. And then the clubs grow exponentially. And so mentoring and the mentoring mindset becomes really, really important here. So, sometimes, yeah, it's not about us, right? It's as we invest our time in others, the thing is that what we want to do is we want to make sure that the others that we work with are having a great Toastmaster experience, right? So this is what happens when somebody new comes to the club. We want to assign them a mentor, a buddy, whatever you happen to call it in your club, and we want to make sure that their Toastmaster experience is great. We want to make sure that their Toastmaster experience is above and beyond. We want to make sure that they feel part of a club, right? We want to make sure that they feel part of everything that we do. And so as we start to invest and we start to think about the new members, which is where most of our mentoring focus happens to be, then yes, it is all about the members. It's all about the membership. It's all about the things that our members are learning. Great. So we have somebody that's assigned as a mentor, and so they walk us through our first couple of speeches maybe, and then the relationship kind of dwindles or diminishes, and then we're expected to mentor somebody else in the same thing. And so oftentimes the mentoring relationship has kind of a finite end to it. Right. So as we think about those that are in senior leadership, how many in senior leadership still have mentors? Right? How many in senior leadership still have, maybe multiple mentors? Right? Some people don't. Some people then spend all of their time mentoring others. And so that the key here with the mentor mindset is what is mentorship in the first place? And mentorship is all about pouring ourselves into others. And as we pour ourselves into others and we see others grow, then guess what happens? We grow too. And this is the key to mentoring, right? And so when it comes to our own mentoring mindset, when it comes to our own growth mindset where mentoring is concerned, why wouldn't we want to take that next step? Why wouldn't we want to see what it is that we can do to help grow our clubs? Right? So growing a club is more than just growing a membership. Growing a club is finding the next leader to step into maybe our current leadership role. And what does that look like? Right? How do we backfill, so to speak, as we start to move on? Right? How do we think about, gosh, I want to next term, I want to become a division director. And so as a division director, maybe I'm club president this time. So who am I going to get to backfill my club president? Rather than a week before thinking, oh yes, gosh, it's election time's coming up, and gosh, I think Andy would be a good president. So let me just give him a call. Hey, Andy, we got elections next week, and I think you'd be a good president. How about it? I've never really done that before. Oh, come on, Andy, it'd be easy. Come on, you should try it. Yeah, I'm a bit. Oh, come on. Okay, I'll do it. And then it comes time to club election, and then the way it typically goes when we do these club elections is okay. And so for president, we've got Andy, and he's standing unopposed. So all in favor, and everybody says yeah, great. And then Andy becomes president. Right? But where was the mentorship for Andy to get him ready for the role that he was going to step into? And oftentimes we forget about that, right? Oftentimes we forget that, as we're mentoring one another, mentoring comes down to leadership, right? As I'm working with others, I want to make sure that I'm, as I said, pouring myself into others to help them to become better leaders, to help them to want to step into a leadership role. And then as we continue to have people to step into leadership roles, then our entire organization grows, because then people are looking for the next challenge, right? People are always looking for the next thing that they can do. And so as we think about what our challenges have been, oftentimes, okay, first challenge in Toastmasters is maybe a table topic, and we get up and we do a table topic, and then next challenge might be an icebreaker, and then we might be a timekeeper, and then we might be a grammarian, and then the roles kind of roll out. But then what happens when, as I said, it comes time to think about club leadership for the next term, and how have we been developing our internal leaders, how we've been developing our clubs to be ready to step into that role. And so really important that we think about with our mindset, it's not about us, it is about us. Because the other thing that's happening is, as we're developing leaders, we ourselves are developing as leaders. And there's nothing greater than that. And so again, when it comes to our mindset, the fixed mindset is all about kind of proving ourselves. The growth mindset is all about improving ourselves. So, and this is really tricky sometimes in Toastmasters because we work in an environment that's, you know, there's proof everywhere, right? We've all got letters after our names that is proving what we've done, right? And so as you think about the difference between proving and improving, proving yourself in a fixed mindset often comes out of that threat state, often comes out of that recognition of a snake rather than a stick. Proving myself is gosh, I want to deliver a better speech this week than anybody else. I want to win Best Speaker of the Night ribbon, for instance. Right. And so as we work to prove ourselves, what we do is we then kind of get locked into our own environment. We kind of get locked into what we're doing based on the skills and based on the talents that we think we already have. Improving, on the other hand, is you know, gosh, I'm really looking to be better than I was yesterday. I'm really looking to do better on this speech this week than I did last time. One of the things that's been really, really great about Pathways is there are opportunities to deliver a speech, then to get some feedback, and then to deliver the same speech again. And this is really improvement focused, right? Whatever the feedback is, when I give that second time around speech, I want it to be better than I did the first time. And in this case, I'm kind of competing with myself, right? And so as we're thinking, I'm just going to take a couple of questions here from the chat and just take a break for a minute because there are a couple of questions that I really want to dig into. And so when we think about proving versus improving, fixed versus growth, and Geetha, what you're wondering, sometimes it's easier as an individual to shift from fixed mindset to growth mindset if you want to challenge, but how do you encourage growth mindset over fixed mindset where there's traditions? Exactly. Not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And when we think about how we encourage that growth mindset. So tradition oftentimes is that thing that will kind of hold us back. Right. Again, speaking about Zoom as a medium for meetings, right? That was one of those new things that, you know, a lot of people kind of fell out of Toastmasters, and they say, yeah, I just can't get my head around that technology. I'm not interested. And I don't want to do it anymore. Right. And so that's kind of a traditional sort of fixed mindset view. As we think about within our clubs and we think about what we're doing within the new environment, gosh, here's a great opportunity because you know what? Yeah, Toastmasters meetings are now virtual, but guess what? So are all of your corporate meetings. So are all of your business meetings. And so what Toastmasters gives you is an opportunity to kind of hone your virtual skills. And then when it comes to having your work meeting, yes, you know, these skills are really transferable. So shifting from a fixed to a growth mindset, oh gosh, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that actually working in a virtual Toastmasters meeting, I didn't realize that was going to help me in my career. But wow, yeah, you're right. No, maybe I'll give this a go. Maybe I'll give this a try. As we think about our mentoring relationships, you know, how do we as mentors reach out to those who maybe not be so comfortable with virtual meetings? Right. And this is where we have a real opportunity to, again, pour ourselves into one another's. Also, just picking up with Krishna, yeah, Toastmasters wanted to improve your strength in speaking, but changed to growth mindset because you learned about listening. Absolutely. And been trying to practice more listening now to become even a better speaker. That's a great example, Krishna. Really, really good. Because this is an opportunity, right? What are the opportunities in front of us at Toastmasters? Yeah, we can get up and we can give speeches. You know, yeah, we can go to contests. Yeah, we can do all these things. But what are the real growth opportunities? I can improve my listening skills. Fantastic. I can improve my leadership skills. Amazing. I can improve my virtual presentation skills. Amazing. And so now we can start to find those growth opportunities and things that, you know, we may not be comfortable with at the beginning, but as we have that growth mindset, we're always willing to give it a go. We're always willing to see what happens next. right? So when we think about within Toastmasters and our own mentoring mindset, when we have a growth mindset ourselves as a mentor, gosh, let me just step out and let me work with the people in my club, right? How many on this call don't currently have a mentor, or don't currently have a mentee within their organization, right? How many, and this is a Toastmaster Leadership Institute. So this is the leadership of this district, right? Of this division. And so if we think about as leaders, how many of us don't have any mentees at the moment? And is there an opportunity there for us to grow and improve? Because maybe, gosh, yeah, I've been in Toastmasters for, 5 years, or I've been in Toastmasters for 10 years. I've been in Toastmasters for 20 years. I'm now club leader. I'm area leader. I'm district leader. I'm whatever. And now that I think about it, no, I don't really have a mentor or a mentee. Maybe there's an opportunity there to shift to a bit of a growth mindset. What is it that I can do to help to grow this division, for instance? And we do that by investing our time, investing our life, right? Yeah, Martha, technically, you now need to complete a path to become a mentor. Yeah, so when you think about that, and is that necessarily the truth based on, what I said? We all have mentees that we don't even know we have. Right? We all have mentors that they don't even know that they are mentors, right? So when you think about this formal Toastmasters mentor is probably a bit different than the mentor that I'm talking about in this particular environment, right? Because I'm talking about this mentor mindset that we should have everywhere. Right. And I'll tell you, and I don't know if Andy Hammond is on the call or not, but I'm just going to mention him anyway. One of the greatest discussions I've ever had in Toastmasters is when I was area director, and Andy was division president, and there were some things going on in the area, and he said, Brett, why don't we just get together and have a meeting? And so we met and had a cup of coffee together, and it was one of the most insightful, fruitful conversations that I had in the entire time I've been in Toastmasters. And looking back on it, I could really see his mentor mindset. I could really see his growth mindset, and I could really see the way that he was looking to improve the entire organization. And the way he was doing that was pouring himself into me in that short discussion that we had. And so when I'm talking about that kind of mentorship relationship, that's the mindset that we should have as leaders with everybody that we work with, everybody that we come into, right? And when we look at Toastmasters formal mentoring program, it's a bit different than a mentoring mindset. Mentoring mindset is that thing that really helps us to help others. But at the same time, the surprise for us is the growth that we experience. So, again, when we think about proving, right? Proving is that, problems and challenges, these are things that we want to avoid. I don't really want to step into something that I'm not familiar with, because if I can avoid conflict, if I can avoid challenges, then, I'm going to be able to just kind of stay on my steady course. I'm going to be able to do the things that I do. In fact, Carol Dweck, the one credited with growth mindset, tells a story about how when she was a young girl in school, and she was in a particular class where the teacher at that time organized the students in order of how smart they were, right? And Carol was the smart girl. And so what happened was they had this, this spelling bee at the school, and Carol put her hand up and she went in and she won the spelling bee. And everybody said, "Oh, Carol, you're so smart. This is so great. You won the spelling bee. And now what we want you to do is we want you to move on to the next level. We want you to go to the district spelling bee." And Carol said, "No, I don't want to." And this was Carol's fixed mindset coming out because she didn't want to accept that challenge because everybody already thought she was smart. And if she went to the district spelling bee and she failed or she didn't win it, then people might think she was not so smart. And so avoiding challenges in that fixed mindset, and this is really common with lots of children, really common with, with a lot of the things that we do in our everyday work, right? That we do in our Toastmasters, that we do everything that we do. So if I can avoid if I'm on a high at the moment and I avoid any other challenges, then great, I'm going to continue to be on a high. But if I accept that other challenge and I don't necessarily do as well as I thought I was going to, then yeah, maybe people won't think I'm so great again. And so it's all about, again, proving ourselves. Whereas when we think about a fixed mindset, what does a fixed mindset do? A fixed mindset says, look, challenges are opportunities. Everything I do is learning, right? Everything that we do is really, really important. Everything that we do is all a learning experience. Again, just picking up on Geetha about the mentoring pathways to differentiate mentoring and coaching. Yeah, so I'm ICF as well, and in fact, I teach ICF coaching course, and I think really important that we differentiate between the two. Again, when we think about mentoring, and we think about those challenges that maybe our mentees are facing, how do we help them to step into that learning experience? How do we step into that thing that says, gee, I can actually learn from the things that I'm doing. I can actually, if I try something new and I don't get it right the first time, then there's learnings to be had there, and I can try it again later. And then I can guess, and I can continue to grow. I can continue to learn. I think it was Thomas Edison famously said, I haven't failed. I've just figured out 10,000 ways not to invent a light bulb. Learning, 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 learning. Every time we deliver a speech in Toastmasters, gosh, what could I have done different there? Right? Oftentimes with our feedback we tend to give this sandwich feedback approach in Toastmasters. When we have discussions with our mentees around their performance, the last speech they give, how could that be different? How can we encourage growth? Gosh, what was it there that you thought you did really well in that speech? What were the things that you could that you can continue to do in your next speech? And if you were to give that speech again, what might you do a little bit differently? And this is where the learning comes. So as we're mentoring others, great. So as you were, working through, through your last role, VPE, for instance, what did you enjoy about that? What did you find you did really well? And if you were going to take on that role and start all over again, what might you do differently? And can you take those learnings and potentially maybe look to the next leadership step in Toastmasters? Maybe it's club president, maybe it's area director, maybe it's something else. But are there learnings there that you can take with you and continue your own leadership journey? And as I said, as we continue to do this as mentors, then we continue to grow ourselves because we're always learning. So big deal, right? So what does all of this mean? What is it that we can actually do? Right. The thing about fixed mindset is a fixed mindset creates extrinsic patterns in our minds. Right. And what I mean by that is extrinsic patterns, extrinsic motivation, or things that come from outward. Right. Gosh, I want to get my next pathways level, because then everybody will see that I've completed my pathways level. Or this is really really prevalent in the corporate world, right? A lot of corporate organizations will hand KPIs to their employees and say, this is what you need to achieve for next quarter or whatever. And so what happens when we get extrinsically motivated is we don't necessarily look to achieve the next thing because it's not coming from within us. It's coming from somebody else putting pressure on us. So while we might achieve it, we're not really achieving it with gusto, if I could say that. And so the difference is when we've got a fixed mindset, we're really intrinsically motivated with a growth mindset. And as we're thinking about growth mindset things, growth mindset is the thing that's going to help us to be fulfilled. Right? A growth mindset is that thing that's going to make us want to spend time with one another, because the more time we spend with one another, the more we, again, pour ourselves into each other, then the greater we're going to be as a whole. Right? The more we can impact one another. Simon Sinek tells a great story about he at one point called one of his mentors. And he said, he called this guy and he said, look, he says, you know, we've been together for quite a long time. And I just wanted to call and I just wanted to say, thanks for being my mentor. And his mentor on the other end of the phone said, actually, Simon, I just want to say, thanks for being mine. Because mentorship often is bidirectional. We pour our lives into each other. And as we create this growth mindset around mentoring, we recognize that everything we do can be a learning experience. We recognize that as we continue to move forward with each other, there's always room to learn new things. And as we start to adopt this mindset, again, it's an intrinsic motivation. It comes from within us. You know, and then the reason that we do things is not because I've been assigned to mentor so-and-so, but I can't wait to mentor so-and-so. Because the more I can get involved and the more I can see people around me grow, then the more I grow and the more we all grow. From a Toastmasters perspective, the more the club grows, the more the area grows, the more the division grows, the more the organization grows. And sometimes we kind of forget that because we get really dialed in on the sort of formality of the thing. But it's not about the formality of the thing. It's about the overall impact that we can have on one another. So what are you going to do about it? So we have lots of opportunities, right? We have lots of chances. We have every look around you. Everybody you see is a potential mentor, and everybody you see is a potential mentee. In fact, they may already be, because oftentimes we don't, you know, as I said, we don't know who our mentees are. We don't know who our mentors are. But people are always watching. And as leadership, we are more visible than anybody else in the room. Right? You simply, you know, if we are at a in-person meeting, or even if we're at a virtual meeting like this, a Toastmaster meeting, and say Lark decides to join as a guest, all eyes are on Lark as she walks in the room, as she joins the meeting, right? Because she's more visible because, you know, leadership. The same for each and every one of us. We are more visible, so we are always the mentor. Whether we want to be or not, we're always the mentor. So the thing is, as we embrace that, as we start to develop our own growth mindset, as we start to figure out how we can pour our lives into one another, then all of a sudden we see exponential growth. So again, just a quick reminder, fixed mindset, you know, it limits our vision, right? It creates obstacles rather than looking for solutions. It potentially limits our achievement. Whereas a growth mindset is all about that learning, that experiential journey. It's all about being purpose focused. It's all about becoming what I call a ledge seeker, right? Stepping out on the ledge. And so, you know, I used to say all the time that, you know, the key to leadership is finding your ledge and stepping out onto it, right? As I've grown myself, actually the key to being a leader is when we all step out on the ledge together. And this is the key. So let's grow together. Find some people in your network and you know, start mentoring them. Start pouring yourselves into the lives of others. And let's make Toastmasters as amazing as it possibly can. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brett. I feel I've been challenged to think about my mindset a lot during your presentation. And one big takeaway for me is when I visit other clubs as an area director, whilst when I'm in my home bubble, I know about the members' growth, but maybe I could be asking those questions. So if I have value, I can really comment on how that particular member might have grown, which I haven't personally seen. So thank you for making me reflect on that.
Excellent. Pleasure. Thank you.
And now we're all going to have a little short break. So please get yourself a drink, take a comfort break, and get ready for the rest of our training. We're going to come back to be ready to go by 12:30. Thank you, everyone. We've got just over an hour left and still some amazing training coming up. Now, Brett just mentioned in his presentation about a well-known Toastmaster, Andy Hammond. Now, when we talk about sometimes not knowing who a mentor is, I must really say that Andy's been someone that's really impacted my journey. Just having some informal conversations with him over the years has certainly been ones that I've remembered and have pivoted my leadership growth. Now, Andy's going to be talking about or asking us the question, are we together? And I believe this is all about our effectiveness as leaders. So I'm really excited to introduce Andy. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Amy. Well, I've never had such a build-up and feedback on my speech before I've even started. So let's take a leaf out of Brett's book, shall we? You're going to love this presentation. You're going to learn something really useful. So have we got a positive mindset yet? I hope so. The title is a play on the better together approach. And so the question is, are we together? Now, much of this presentation is based on a book called Dialogue and the Art of Thinking Together, William Isaacs, which I would recommend to everybody. We're going to cover three things in half an hour, so we've got quite a lot of ground to cover. A few basic principles first to set us on the road. The building blocks of dialogue, what I actually mean by that, and role play. Now, don't worry, you don't have to do the role play. This is about the roles we play. So let's start with some principles. First of all, what is dialogue? Now, many people think the die in dialogue means two-way. Well, it doesn't, because that's the Latin. Dialogue comes from the Greek, and dia means flow, as in dialysis. So dialogue is literally a flow of meaning. So it's not about two people, it's about any number of people. And in Toastmasters, we focus an awful lot on communicating to an audience. And today I want to focus more on communicating within a team or within a group, hence dialogue, flow of meaning. Now, some of this resonates with what Lark was saying earlier as well. And the Greeks also have three different types of languages they talk about. They talk about the true. And those are the people who speak in facts and meaning, very logical. They want to know, just tell me the facts. There's what the Greeks call the beautiful, people who talk about the aesthetics, the feelings of things. And the good, it's all about ethics and actions. And they use different language, so they need to hear different language. If people are into the beautiful one, then you need to say to them, how does that feel to you? Does that look okay? The true, people want to know the fact, this is how it is, these are the numbers. And the good, you have to say, this is the right thing to do. We need to be doing this. So it's very different styles of language. Which brings me on to this phrase, which on first look may not make sense. The meaning of your communication is the response you get. How many times have you tried to get your message across? I've told that person 3 times, they just don't hear. Well, the answer is you only have one way of communicating, and that's yours. I think it was Sophie who said in the chat about adjusting your communication style to meet other people's needs. So there's some basic principles. Now let's look at the building blocks of dialogue. We're going to cover 4 areas here: listening, respecting, suspending, and voicing. Listening. Now, we're all great listeners because we're Toastmasters. We know how to listen to other people. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about different listening styles, whether it's empathetic or whether you're simply listening to jump in. So we know much about that. The second one, though, is quite difficult. Listening to ourselves. You know how it is. Somebody will say something and you'll feel an internal reaction. It might be simply to a word. You need to hear that. You need to hear your reaction and understand why you're reacting that way. A story I love to tell, and some of you will know, a Toastmaster I haven't seen for years, I'm afraid, a guy called Jeff Arnold. He was a member of Aaron Speakers when I first joined 20 years ago. And Jeff was a great mentor and supporter to me. He used to give me a lift home after meetings in those early days. He was always so positive. I guess it's probably around about my 4th speech in Toastmasters. And I finally felt I was making progress. I felt I'd done a really good job that evening. I felt good about myself. And as we were driving home, I asked Jeff for some feedback as my mentor, and he said, "Yes, Andy, I thought you were adequate." Now that still makes the hackles go up now when I say it. I had to challenge him. Jeff, I thought I was better than that. Now, if you don't know Jeff, Jeff's a recovering stammerer. And Jeff turned to me and he said, "For 40 years of my life before I joined Toastmasters, people told me I was inadequate. To be called adequate is the highest praise I can give you." It's simply that one word can mean a different thing to everybody. And my internal reaction changed completely then from, "How dare you call me adequate?" to, actually, you know what? Thanks for that, Jeff. Sorry, that's my phone in the background. Ignore that. The third one, in terms of listening, is listen to what isn't said. Now, we know this intuitively, but we don't really think about it. You always know when people aren't quite telling you everything that they want to. You go, "I hear what you're saying, but there's something you're not telling me. What is it?" So always remember to listen for that. And now my dog's barking. It's real fun in this household. So listen to what other people say. Listen to what your internal reactions are saying. But also listen to the messages that people aren't verbalizing. You can tell from their body language or their tone or something. Respecting. Now, of course, respect is one of our core values in Toastmasters. What do these mean? Respect people as whole. We have a tendency to put people into boxes. Oh, so-and-so is a really good evaluator. Or so-and-so, oh yes, we know them, they're an accountant, they're always logical. There's always more to people than those simple labels. People are complicated. People have a whole range of experiences and backgrounds and knowledge. So remember that. Don't put people into pigeonholes and leave them there. Everybody's got a different story, a different life story behind them. And people as legitimate. Sometimes we simply dismiss people because, oh, they always say that, or they have one point of view. Well, actually, their point of view is legitimate. Because we don't agree with it, doesn't make it wrong necessarily. We should seek to understand. Which leads me on to the next one of my favorite ones, make them strange. Now, we all know strange people. I don't mean it in that sense. Just stop and think sometimes. If I didn't know this person already, if they were a complete stranger, and I had no preconceptions, would I hear them differently? Would I treat them differently? Because we all have our expectations of people we've built up over a period of time. So sometimes just step back and go, what if I didn't know them? Would I be making the same judgments? Which brings me on to suspending. So suspend our opinions leads on from the last one. We all bring our opinions to things whether we like it or not. And sometimes those opinions are not based on fact. They're things that we've heard and absorbed and believed to be true. And we see an awful lot of that in politics all over the world. Sometimes you need to suspend that opinion and go, okay, if I didn't believe that, what might I hear differently? Access our ignorance. I think it was Brett who talked about ego. Oh, no, it was Lark actually, wasn't it? Ego. We sometimes have a tendency to think we know the answer to everything. Something I've learned over the years, and partly through Toastmasters and building up my own self-confidence, is I'm very comfortable saying, I don't know. Or, actually, I think I'm wrong on that. There are many, many people who cannot say, I'm wrong, or I don't know. It's very important to be able to suspend your own ignorance and recognize that. The last one here, mind for the questions. What I mean by that is, if you're not sure, if you don't know, or if you're wondering if your opinion is correct, what are the questions I ought to be asking in order to work out the right answer or to better understand. Again, we don't often take enough time to reflect and say, what would be a useful question to ask in this situation? Voicing. What is true for me? This is very important. Your own truth is only known to you. You have to speak honestly and sincerely, accepting that you might actually be wrong. But if you don't say it, nobody else will. Trust the emptiness. In Toastmasters, we learn to pause. It's a great skill to have. Sometimes in conversations, in meetings, we just need to be quiet as a group and wait until we know what needs to be said. People have a tendency just to say something just to fill the silence. Sometimes you just need to reflect. And there's nothing wrong with a team to say something just to sit there quietly and go, what is the next step? You need time to think sometimes. And voicing what needs to be said. This comes down to integrity to a large extent. If something needs to be said and nobody's saying it, then you say it. If somebody's behaving in a way that is not true to our core values or is not acceptable and nobody's challenging, then you need to say it. So just think about if something needs to be said and nobody else is doing it, as a leader, let us say it. Just to briefly recap on those. Listening. Clearly we know how to listen to other people. We should be quite good at that as Toastmasters. But sometimes we need to listen to ourselves, what our own reactions are, and why we're having that response. Chances are it's not a response to that person, it's a response to something in our own history that we're reacting to. And what are people not saying? What should I be hearing from their gestures, their body language, or their tone? Respect, of course, a core value. People are much more complicated and deep than we give them credit for. Everybody's got a long backstory. Don't just pigeonhole them. They have a right to their point of view. You may not agree with it, but try and understand it and try and work out why they hold that point of view. Make them strange. If you didn't know them, if you didn't know already, I know what they're going to say, I know what their reaction is going to be, might you treat them differently? Suspend. Your opinions may be wrong. You may not know the answers. Think of what questions you need to ask. And voice. What's your truth? What perspective do you need to share? Sometimes you don't need to share at all. You need to think and reflect. And sometimes you have to be the person to speak up and say what needs to be said. That's the fundamentals of dialogue. Now I want to move on to a particular model, which again reflects something Lark was talking about. This is based on this particular example, David Cantor's 4-player model of communication. We've talked about a communication style. Now, how do we put these into practice in a group situation? And there are 4 models in here: movers, followers, opposers, and bystanders. And we all know some of these people. We all know the movers. I think that's what Lark would direct us. We should do this. Let's do this. We need to do this. They're the very proactive drivers, the movers. The followers, yes, I agree. Oh, absolutely. Oh, yes, yeah, I agree. They always agree. They're always the yes people. The opposers, oh, there's plenty of opposers in the world, aren't there? Oh, no, we can't do it that way. Oh, no, we tried that before and it didn't work. Oh, no, we're not allowed to do that, the rules say. And the bystanders, they just sit there quietly, say nothing. So the question is, which of those is right? Well, of course, none of them are. The key is to move between the roles and to use them positively. So the movers, it doesn't have to be directive and arrogant. It can be, I suggest the best way forward is. The followers, it's not a passive following. It's you follow for a reason. I support this because it's a good idea. This has these benefits. Opposers, it's not just about being negative and saying no. It's okay to oppose. I don't agree. However, let me explain my perspective. and the bystanders. What I'm hearing is. Now, I am by nature an introvert, a reflector. I'm very much the bystander. Even when I'm leading in a meeting, I will quite often be silent for quite a lot of the time and listen and weigh up. And then I'll speak when I have something to say and reflect back what I've heard. That's my predominant style. However, I've had to play those roles. So as district director, I had to be the mover. I had to be the person setting the direction. In other situations, it's right to follow, to support. And again, about speaking up, sometimes you have to say, no, that's not the right way to go. But always give yourself time to reflect, be the bystander. But of course, simply to answer the question, which is the right role? The answer is all of them. The worst thing is to get stuck in one and not realize you're stuck, because then you're not contributing, you're not part of the group, you're not aiding the understanding of the group and the moving forward. So just be aware of those different roles. So let's recap over the whole thing briefly. Basic principles. Dialogue is not about two-way communication. It's about a flow of communication. It's a group thing. Teams work best when everybody is involved and engaged and understanding. People have different languages, different ways of hearing things, as Brett was touching on. Some people, it's about the feelings. They need to be understood, their reactions, their emotions. For some people, it's about the aesthetics. For some people, it's about the facts. And for some people, it's about the actions. You may need to vary your language in order to actually engage with each of those different types. When we're having a dialogue as a group, remember to listen. What are people saying? What are you saying? It might be your gut reaction. It might be that little voice in your head that's telling you something. Why is that? Where's it coming from? What are people not saying that they want to? There's a wonderful phrase I've used in coaching. Sometimes you say to them, well, what's your opinion on so-and-so? And they say, I haven't got an opinion. The great question to ask is, if you had an opinion, what would it be? It's actually people usually do if they bother to stop and reflect. Listening. Respecting. Everybody's legitimate. They've got their own reasons. There's an NLP saying is that every action has a positive intent. It may not be positive for you, but it is for the other person. So what is their purpose? What if you didn't know those people? Would you treat them differently? And at all times, don't be negative. Respect people's perspective and that they have a difference. One of the things that annoys me in life is when people mishear when I say, I understand you. People so often hear, I agree with you. That's not the same. I can understand you without agreeing with you. Try and understand people, where they're coming from. Suspend your judgment, your opinions. Admit when you're wrong. Voicing. Say what needs to be said. Speak your own truth. And sometimes don't speak at all. In a group, that's difficult to be quiet. There's always somebody who wants to start speaking. Just take some time. Be aware of how you're using those. Be aware of how you are acting. Are you being directive when you don't need to be? Is it based on facts, or are you just going from your own experience and not listening to people? Sometimes you need to follow, but have a reason for following. Understand why you're agreeing with people. If something isn't right, oppose it, but oppose it with a constructive suggestion. A bit like evaluations, isn't there? No point just saying, that's wrong. That's no help to anybody. I think it could be better if. And be prepared to be reflective and speak when you need to speak. As communicators, we spend a lot of time talking one to many. In teams, as leaders, we need to spend more time speaking as a group, having a dialogue. The subtitle of the book I mentioned at the start is The Art of Thinking Together. Communicating as a team is about understanding, sharing, and then going forward as a team. So are we together? Division H has the logo of Better Together. So ask yourself that question. And if we're not, how can we think together and move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andy, for your presentation and making us all think about ourselves as leaders and the impact that we leave, for sure. Now, what's really important now that we're reflecting on that is how do we take that away and really impact our clubs? And our next trainer is Arno, our district director, and he's going to talk about our club success plans, which is so key to the success within our clubs. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Amy. Before I start, I will put in the chat a link to a document that I'm sure you are all very familiar with, but I also know this is a document that can sometimes be convoluted to find on the Toastmasters website. So do take a look. This is the Distinguished Club Program and Club Success Plan document that will give you a lot of information about everything you need to know on the DCP and your club success plan. But with that in mind, what I wanted to talk through today is a combination of how we are doing as a district from the perspective of every single one of our clubs, and go to look at what it is that each club can do over the next 6 months to continue a very positive trajectory in Division H. So let me share my slides, and hopefully I have the access to do that, and I do. So with a bit of luck, you should be able to see my screen and the club success plan. So I wanted to start talking about the very beginning. Way back over the summer, we came up with our district vision, which was to be the place of choice for communication, servant leadership, and personal development. This is something that is very close to my heart and very much at the core of everything Toastmasters does, and is very much aligned with the long-term vision of the organization. And in order to achieve this, we have 3 aspirational numbers that we've been talking about. One being that every member across our district would get at least 1 educational award per year. We would be targeting 80% of renewals at every opportunity. And last but not least, 100% of our clubs will have 20 or more members. And to top all of this, we have also our district mission that Toastmasters International gives us. And it's a very simple one. We build new clubs and support all clubs in achieving excellence. Over the course of the next slide, I hope you will see how that district mission is exemplified across the division. So let's go through some numbers. Division H is made of 23 clubs. The division has already grown 1 club, with Liberty Speakers joining us towards the end of last year. We also have in the division 3 pre-charter clubs: Clever Communicators, Dovercom, and Sussex Online Speakers. So when we talk about our district mission to build new club and support all clubs in achieving excellence, I think you will agree with me that we are certainly punching above our weight in a division in building new clubs. All of our clubs have renewed their membership on time this past October. The division as a whole had 72% retention, which, by the way, is a very good number by historical standards across the division, but also the district. The division has 478 members, and that's an average of about just over 20 members per club, which is a very nice number, because 20 is the minimum number of members that a club requires in order to charter. This is what we call a charter strength. But that is also a number that allows a club to operate in a very healthy manner, making sure that all meetings, all events can be staffed appropriately with all the necessary roles from start to finish. There's been 90 new members in the division, and that's just short of 4 new members per club on average. So think about it, that is a big number to start with. So please reflect and consider how so many new members have joined your clubs this year. As a division, there has been 120 educational awards awarded to our members. And over the summer, 117 club officers were trained, which makes it an average of 5 club officers per club. And you might be wondering, why am I giving you all of these numbers? The truth is, I love numbers, but more importantly, the Distinguished Club Program is exemplified by all of these numbers. Every club is looking to achieve a combination of 6 different educational awards on a Distinguished Club Program. Achieving 120 educational awards across a division is a huge and absolute incredible achievement so far this year. And I know there is a lot more to come, as is always the case as the year progresses. New membership. We are halfway through the Toastmaster year, give or take, plus or minus 9 days. 4 new members is what you need to achieve a DCP point. 4 new members gives you another point. And that is also an incredible achievement. Halfway through the year, and on average, every club in this division is already at the halfway mark when it comes to gaining new members. But please don't rest on your laurels. Just because the division is doing so great on new membership doesn't mean you should stop there. Aim for the stars and look for opportunities to share what this division does best. Renewals and retention. Those numbers are incredible. It is quite a rare occurrence that all clubs manage to renew on time. And that is testament to not just the members enjoying themselves, but also the clubs and their officers, yourselves, delivering what is necessary for all of our members. So how does that work? Together we are stronger is the theme for today's training. So we are achieving collectively all of these good and successful outcomes because every club is delivering on its success plan. Every club officer is leading by example. And every member feels welcome and supported when joining any one of our meetings in the division. That is a very important statement. The ability of this division to achieve what it has achieved so far this year, despite the current environment, despite being online, despite the world around us crumbling apart, we are continuing to meet. We are continuing to grow and grow strongly. And that is testament to your leadership. So thank you. So what can be done over the next 6 months in order to continue and focus our efforts to get even better? So first of all, reviewing your success plans. I'm not going to ask you because I can't actually see the hands, but please think about it for yourself. How many of you have looked at your success plan in the last 6 weeks? How many of you have taken action to change or revise your success plan in the last 6 weeks? And how many of you have had a chance and have done or are about to do a club success or a club recognition event to celebrate what your club has achieved for the first half of the year. Irrespective of the answer to any of those questions, think about opening up that document. Think about revising the content. Look for ways to reach out again to the members. Understand what may be necessary to allow more members to achieve more educational awards over the next period. If your club has already gained plenty of new members, and I know one club in particular in the division has achieved a pretty impressive 15 new members in the past 6 months. How did that club achieve this? Have a chat amongst yourselves and think about how those lessons can be applied. Talking of lessons and apply them, the club secretary breakout session earlier today, I asked everybody attending, what are your successes? And I believe there were 9 participants in this group. And we came up with at least 18 different successes that could be pinpointed specifically as a result of a club secretary doing something amazing. Multiply that by 7, which is the total number of club officers, and think about how many successes you can celebrate with your club members and beyond. That is an essential part of the program. At the mid-year, look for the opportunities to adjust what was planned in the first place, and more importantly, find ways to continue delivering on the Toastmasters promise. The next part is about mentoring, and we've heard about mentoring a lot today, but perhaps I'll take it from a slightly different angle. Mentoring, from my perspective here today on that session, is all about continuing and developing those relationships. Many of you within the clubs will have mentoring schemes in place. Many of you will have mentors. Many of you will be mentees. And that's absolutely fantastic. But are those relationships working? Are those relationships the best they can be? And if not, how can they be better? This time of year is a perfect opportunity to reset and think about a conversation with your mentor, with your mentee, and look for the next stage. What is the next level that you want to achieve? Whether it's taking on a new role as a club officer, whether it's stepping up to become a district leader, or whether it's stepping up to become a different district leader over the coming period. Those are wonderful conversations to have in a mentor-mentee relationship. And I would encourage all of you to think about it. Think about what you might want to do. Think about what your aspirations are as a member. Are your aspirations met? Are you progressing? Are you delivering the speeches and project that you wanted to deliver at the beginning of the year? And if not, why not? How can that be improved over the second part? And then succession planning. Succession planning is an integral part of everything we do. I've been saying for a number of years now that succession starts on the 1st of July of the Toastmaster year. In other words, the day you take office is when succession planning really needs to kick in. And as the year progresses, succession planning becomes even more important, so that when comes the beginning of May, the first meeting of May, where you will have your club elections, there will be a pool of talents within your club willing and able to take on the club officer reins for the next July. Now, it's all well and good to say succession planning is important, but how do we go about it? Well, we talked about reviewing the success plans. Are the members that were targeted to achieve particular level achievements or path completion or even DTMs? Do you have members looking for the next challenge? Could that challenge be a new club officer role? As part of your mentoring relationship, do anyone talk about learning something different picking up a particular role, even as an assistant. All of this conversation, all of these activities will allow you to think about the succession for the club. And the succession planning is not owned by anyone in particular. It is owned by everyone. Every club officer across every club, across every area, across the whole division owns its own success by planning for its succession planning. Does that make sense? That's a lot of planning in here. But the bottom line here is by reviewing your success plan, ensuring that the mentoring relationships are there, you will end up in a position of strength in which members will step up for the next period. And as part of a club success plan, it is important to look at every single one of those key areas so that you can go back, talk to your members, and look out for the next talent. Overall, I would like to say a big thank you to all members of Division H, to all club officers, all 100 and plus present here today, maybe not just from Division H, but certainly district, division, and area leaders that are also supporting you to achieve your goals. As a district, I'm really impressed with what you have all achieved this year. Looking at the achievement of the clubs, looking at the events being held online, and looking at the ability of many of the clubs in this very division to attract members, not just from local communities, but from around the world. And I do mean literally around the world. I am aware of members either living or traveling from different parts of the world, being members in Division H, from Canada to Mexico to Africa to the Middle East and Asia. We have members in our division from all corners of the globe. So take stock and reflect on this. Who would have thought only a year ago that Division H would be at this stage? Nobody. Nobody thought that was even possible, and yet it's been achieved. You as district, as division, and more importantly, club leaders, you have all taken a part in achieving all of this. Many of the clubs that are written here, and I believe all 23 clubs should be listed here, have been in a position to say, yes, we have achieved something good. Yes, we have been able to support our members. Yes, we have been able to be that window into the world that some of our most vulnerable members may be experiencing in these difficult times. And yes, we will continue to thrive and become even better as a result. So with all of this, I will conclude with my favorite quote. We learn best in moments of enjoyment. Our ability to learn, to progress in our Toastmasters program, within our clubs, beyond the club, building new clubs, reaching out, creating PR campaign, looking for the next talent within our clubs and beyond, and doing all of this whilst having fun is a wonderful recipe. And as our founder, Ralph Smedley, said, we do learn best in moments of enjoyment. Thank you, Division H. Thank you for all of your doing, and to all club leaders here present today. Thank you for the great work that you have done so far. And I look forward to seeing what you will do with your clubs over the next 6 months. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Arno. I always love hearing you speak, and I feel very inspired. And I think it's nice that you've touched so much on how much we've achieved so far, which I think is important. Sometimes we feel like we haven't done much, but we actually have done quite a lot as a division and as a district. Now, we're almost at the end, but we have one more presenter, and I must say I've been so intrigued by the title of this presentation. So one of my fellow area directors in Division H, Serena Gilbert, with are you a steel box or a shock absorber? Thank you, Serena.
A single tear rolled down my cheek and plopped into my beer. I was sad, and now I had watered down beer. Could things get any worse? Fellow Toastmasters, about 18 months ago, I crumpled. I'd fluffed a speech in a contest, and I was sad that several members had decided not to renew, and figured what was the point in my role as VP of PR if I couldn't get people to come along to the club, and it all felt too much. But as I sat there sulking, I needed to make a choice. Was I going to be a shock absorber or a steel box? Have there been times in the last few months when you felt a bit deflated when someone said, I'm not coming back until we meet again in person? Or when you've absolutely longed for the applause at the end of a contest, but everyone's on auto mute? Have you faced these challenges? And have you thought about your approach? Are you a shock absorber or a steel box? Now you might be wondering what I'm talking about. So imagine a bumpy road and a steel box traveling down that road. It's pretty robust, it's pretty tough, it's going to hold up to the majority of bumps and knocks along the way. But eventually there'll be a small scratch or a tiny dent, and it'll get bent out of shape, and maybe under the pressure, like me in the pub, it'll crumple. Now, imagine instead that you're a shock absorber. And for those of us who aren't engineers or mechanics, a shock absorber is like a giant spring. And as you go over a bump in the road, you will absorb and dampen the impact by contracting and expanding. Being resilient in trying times is about feeling those bumps in the road and dampening their impact, but still being able to move on. My first piece of advice is about being like a shock absorber. Know that you aren't alone. On cars, shock absorbers are in corners, in pairs. They don't work alone. They work with others to balance out the load, to even the travel down the road. Look around. There are people there to support you, your fellow members, your fellow committee, other people in the same role as you, and across the Division H network, everyone that's presented here today. And my second piece of advice, although shock absorbers are relatively maintenance-free, they can get worn out and need to be replaced. So it's vital that you look after yourself. Now, we all know that we should probably eat well and sleep right. In fact, my New Year's resolution is to go to bed at 10:30, which the fact that pubs are closed is really helping with that. It's really important that you go outside and get yourself some daylight, or as Manoj recommended at the opening of this talk today, laugh in the mirror and get those energizing endorphins going and just feel better about yourself. Another great bit of advice is just to say no. I know we're all asking you to take on roles and responsibilities as club officers, but know when you're getting overloaded and feel okay about saying, I can't do this right now, or what else could you take off of me so that I could take that particular responsibility on. It's also important, as Arno's just said, that we make a plan. If we have a plan, we can look ahead down the road and we can maybe swerve some of those major potholes. And finally, I'd say do something nice for somebody else. If you're feeling a bit low, there's nothing better than actually just sharing the love and brightening someone else's day. And hopefully that joy will radiate back towards you. But if there's one key bit of advice I can give to you today to take away, is think about the approach that you're taking. Back to where I started, in the pub, crying into my beer, and fluffed my speech. I felt all my PR efforts were for naught, and we'd lost our members. But rather than feel dejected, I redirected. I used my committee role as VP of PR to research speaking tips, and I shared them on the page, and in turn, they helped me with my public speaking. I set myself a clear goal of the Triple Crown, to have something to focus on and to help my club achieve its DCP points, which gave me some focus. A bump in the road, absorbed. Rather than catastrophize, I collaborated. As I looked around the table, I saw the faces of all my fellow committee members, and we made a plan that night whether it meant we were going to do all of the speeches and roles together or whatever we needed to do to keep the club running and regain our lost membership, we were committed to doing it together. And thankfully we succeeded. Another bump in the road. Absorbed. Resilience isn't just about snapping out of a bad mood or pretending that everything's fine. Resilience is about being able to face the feeling and to contract and expand and to not get bent out of shape when things don't go your way. So as we go into these next few weeks of lockdown and through the next 6 months of club leadership, look around at the people who are there to support you. Look around and think about the ways in which you can continue to grow and expand through personal and club goals. And think about how you can be alert to your mindset. I ask you, are you going to choose to be a shock absorber or be a steel box? Back to you, Amy.
Thank you so much, Serena. I feel that is such a fantastic way to round out our training today, to make us really think about what we're doing and can we be shock absorbers. And I also think that some of us maybe don't take enough time for self-care. So that's something I'll definitely be putting in my back pocket and thinking about over the next few days. What an absolutely fantastic training session we've had. And I would just really like to say a massive thank you to the team that put it together. Obviously led by Venetian, our division director. He had such a big vision for this, and we can really see, yes, a round of applause. I can see people clapping. You can really see how carefully he thought about how the training would be placed today and how everything would fit together. And all of this cannot be achieved by one human by themselves. So we've had some fantastic support from Alan and Philip, our Zoom masters. We've had a couple of members from across the division just helping with getting people renamed. And of course, we've had a timekeeper to keep us on time, which we've managed to achieve very well. Thank you, Jonathan. And all of our fantastic keynote speakers, trainers and presenters today who've put effort into producing such fabulous content to share with us all. And I also want to thank all of you who've shown up and really given commitment to your clubs to grow as leaders, not just for your clubs, but also for yourself. So please give a massive round of applause to everyone today. And to finish us off, I will hand you back over to our division director, Venetian. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Amy. Wow. Well, how about we give Amy a round of applause for having been such a wonderful host and today. It's been an excellent event, and yes, well, of course, I'm eternally grateful for the whole team who have supported me in terms of delivering this TLI, and certainly. Amy has been there in terms of putting the process together, putting it all together, resourcing it all up, and it's been a fantastic joint effort, and I'm eternally grateful for it. On the technical side, we've had Philip, we've had Alan Dr. Bragg as our Zoom masters, and also Lord Zoom is back in Division H, and he's been helping us out with the recording, and that's worked fantastically well. And all the helpers. I mean, we have the timekeeper, Jonathan. We've had Teresa coming in and helping out as well earlier. Even though she's had a few other family commitments as well to juggle at the same time, and I think we are very grateful for this help. And of course, we've had a world-class lineup of speakers today, and I think it shows the strength and the depth of the division. And one thing perhaps you probably aren't aware, that Lark Doley is also a member of Division H, and that is it shows the type of caliber that we have in-house, and the breakout rooms. I mean, I've been in and out of the breakout rooms, and I've seen some really wonderful, really challenging and engaging conversation that's been going on with all the club officers, and it's been amazing to see and to witness. We have had so much today. We've had it is very rare that we get to have a world champion to come along and deliver value of that nature, and we had that today. I mean, we are in turbulent times, and we got some excellent information as to how we're going to deal with this as leaders, for us to grow and utilize this growth mindset that we want to have and we want to adhere to, in order to not only serve ourselves, our own path, our own mindset, but also to serve our members and our clubs and everybody else around us. This is also important. And the theme of the division this year, and together for this TLI, is that together we are stronger. We know that we are strong, and we know, and we've seen the numbers, and that is great. And we know that if we do stick together, we work together, we debate together, we dialogue together, we're going to be even stronger. And that is the culture that we want to continue with. Is oh so important. This is our savior in terms of what's going to take us from here to there, and there being the 30th of June 2021. And that is key. Is key in terms of how we're going to be performing, how we're going to be serving, where our members are going to be. It's very, very important. We've got a very fresh approach in terms of what a club success plan is. It is not the overwhelming, oh my God, all this paperwork. It's not about form filling. It's about fulfilling the objectives that we've set for ourselves and for our clubs, and how we go about achieving it. It doesn't need to be War and Peace, as long as there is something written down and something that can be shared amongst a committee, amongst a group of people working together, then it is better than nothing. And I would urge you, as you go away today, that you start working on what you've got, perhaps think about your successes, your challenges, or any course corrections that you may have, and start thinking and start putting it back into in writing. It's important. And if you're from here, you're going into your club officer training, if you're having a club officer training within your areas, this is an additional opportunity where you're going to be able to discuss in even more finer details some of these issues that you are facing within your areas. And that I certainly recommend that you do that. And how do we grow? How do we maintain this, retain our members and attract more members? I think this growth mindset, this mentoring mindset, is very important in terms of how we go about doing this, because membership engagement is paramount. Could it be the way that we deliver club meetings, the way that we look after our members, we mentor them? It could be a mentorship program, it could be a buddy system, it could be anything that you have. But if there is support there, there's the feeling within the hearts and the minds of our members that their individual needs are being looked at and protected by the club, that makes a big difference, because they feel that they've got support, and they're more likely to be engaged with what they are doing. And if that happens, well, where else would they be going? They will only stay. And when they stay, there will be advocates for others to come along and join. And that chain reaction will go on and on and on, because together is the approach of doing it. We know that working together works, but our strength comes from that togetherness. And we've seen today about the importance of how we work together. We are not a set of individual role holders. It is a group of people working together for the benefit of their club, for the benefit of their members, and for their own benefit as well, because there are so many initiatives associated with that can benefit you individually as leaders. Everybody, it is a win-win-win situation for everybody concerned. And that is the beauty of this education program. And that is the beauty of the organization, that we are part. So yes, so what not? This is where we are right now. And we know where we need to be, and let's move this forward. because together we know that we are stronger. Together we know that membership experience is the key towards getting us to where we want to be. So my message to you is, together we're stronger, and together let us make it all about membership experience. Thank you.